The city of Lumina rose like a cathedral of light, its glass spires catching the dawn in a kaleidoscope of amber and violet. Holographic billboards flickered across the skyline, projecting advertisements for enchanted wearables and AI-augmented spellbooks, their colors bleeding into the mist that clung to the streets below. The air hummed with the pulse of magic-infused technology, a symphony of whirring drones and the soft chime of levitating transport pods gliding along crystalline tracks. In this metropolis, where ancient magic and cutting-edge innovation intertwined, the past was a relic, preserved only in the city's vast magical archive, a labyrinthine repository of enchanted artifacts tucked beneath the gleaming facade. Seraphina moved through this world like a ghost, her footsteps muffled on the polished obsidian tiles of Lumina's central plaza. Her auburn hair, loosely tied in a braid, caught the light, glinting like embers against her pale, freckled skin. She wore a simple gray tunic, its utilitarian cut blending into the crowd of commuters in their sleek, iridescent jumpsuits. But her hazel eyes, flecked with gold, betrayed a secret, a magic-sensitive soul, a rare gift inherited from a lineage of seers long forgotten by Luminous progress-obsessed society. This gift was her curse, marking her as an outcast in a city that revered control over chaos, technology over mysticism. To reveal her sensitivity would invite scrutiny from the Magical Enforcement Agency, or MEA, whose sleek drones patrolled the skies, their sensors attuned to unregulated magic. The archive, her workplace, loomed at the plaza's edge, a monolithic structure of frosted glass and chrome, its surface etched with runes that pulsed faintly with dormant magic. Inside, the air was cool and heavy with the scent of aged parchment and ozone, a stark contrast to the city's vibrant chaos. Seraphina's desk sat in a dimly lit corner, surrounded by towering shelves laden with artifacts, a cracked amulet that whispered forgotten spells, a bronze astrolabe that shimmered with starlight, a leather-bound grimoire that seemed to sigh when touched. Her job was to catalog these relics, her gloved hands meticulously recording their properties in a holographic ledger, never daring to touch them directly. The prohibition was absolute. Her sensitivity, if discovered, could destabilize the artifacts, or so the archive's overseers claimed. Each day, she felt the artifact's latent magic tugging at her soul, a siren's call she resisted with clenched fists and shallow breaths.
This morning, as sunlight filtered through the archive's skylights, casting prismatic patterns across the stone floor, Seraphina sat hunched over her ledger, her stylus scratching data onto the glowing interface. Her heart was a knot of quiet despair, a familiar ache that had settled in her chest years ago. She was 26, and her life was a tapestry of routine and restraint. Wake, work, hide, sleep. The archive was her sanctuary and her prison, a place where she could be near magic without claiming it. Her colleagues, clad in sterile white coats, barely acknowledged her, their conversations about quantum enchantments and neural spell interfaces passing over her like a cold wind. She overheard their whispers. "Seraphina's odd, always so quiet," or "she's got that old-world look, like she belongs in a museum." The words stung, but she swallowed them, her face a mask of indifference. At noon, she took her break in the archive's courtyard, a small enclave of synthetic grass and metallic benches encircled by humming wards. She sat alone, unwrapping a plain sandwich, her gaze drifting to a distant spire where a holographic dragon coiled through the air, advertising a new mana-charged energy drink. The city's pulse felt alien to her, its vibrancy a reminder of her isolation. Her magic-sensitive soul stirred, sensing the undercurrent of Lumina's magical grid, a network of ley lines woven into the city's infrastructure, invisible to most, but a faint, tingling warmth to her. She closed her eyes, letting the sensation wash over her, a fleeting moment of connection to a power she could never fully embrace. Guilt followed, sharp and immediate. To indulge her sensitivity was to risk exposure, to invite the MEA's cold scrutiny. She opened her eyes, her sandwich untouched, and forced the warmth down, burying it beneath layers of practiced control. As the day waned, Seraphina returned to her desk, her movements mechanical. A new artifact awaited her, a silver orb etched with spiraling runes, its surface pulsing with a faint, erratic glow. Her fingers hovered over pulsing with a faint, erratic glow. Her fingers hovered over it, the gloves a barrier between her skin and its magic. The orb's energy called to her, a whisper of ancient voices that made her chest tighten. She wanted to touch it, to let her soul drink in its power, to feel something other than the suffocating weight of her solitude. But she didn't. Instead, she logged its details. Object 4729, origin unknown, emits low-frequency magical resonance, and turned away, her heart pounding with a mix of longing and fear. The archive's clock chimed, signaling the end of her shift. She gathered her belongings, a worn satchel and a faded scarf, and stepped into the twilight of Lumina, where the city's lights painted the sky in hues of sapphire and gold. Walking home, Seraphina navigated the crowded streets, her head bowed against the tide of voices and holographic ads. Her apartment was a small utilitarian cube in a towering residential block, its walls bare except for a single framed sketch of a starry sky, a relic from her mother, the last seer in her family. Inside she lit a single candle, its flame a feeble echo of the magic she suppressed. She sat by the window, gazing at the city's glittering expanse, her reflection a pale silhouette against the glass. Loneliness was her constant companion, a shadow that clung to her like the city's mist. Yet deep within, her magic stirred, an undercurrent waiting for a spark to ignite it. A spark she didn't know yet was coming, hidden in the city's unseen depths.
Beneath the glittering spires of Lumina, where glass and chrome reflected the city's ceaseless ambition, lay a forgotten world of shadows and decay. The underbelly, a sprawling network of abandoned subways, cavernous sewers, and crumbling maintenance tunnels, stretched like a labyrinth beneath the city's polished surface. Here, the air was thick with the scent of damp stone and rust, punctuated by the distant drip of water and the faint hum of Lumina's magical grid, its ley lines pulsing faintly through the earth. Bioluminescent fungi clung to the walls, casting an eerie green glow that eliminated jagged graffiti and rusted tracks, relics of a time before the city's technological ascendancy. This was the domain of Rhys's werewolf pack, descendants of ancient shapeshifters who had retreated from the human world centuries ago. Rhys moved through the tunnels with the silent grace of a predator, his broad shoulders filling the narrow passageways. His dark hair, streaked with silver, fell in loose waves to his jaw, framing eyes that glowed amber in the dim light, a mark of his lunar heritage. Clad in a patched leather jacket and worn boots, he blended into the shadows, his presence both commanding and elusive. As Alpha, he carried the weight of his pack's survival, their existence a precarious secret in a city that viewed them as myths or monsters. The pack's lair, a vast chamber carved from an old subway hub, was a patchwork of scavenged materials, tarp strung across rusted beams, crates repurposed as tables, and a central fire pit where embers cast flickering shadows on the faces of his kin. This evening, Rhys stood before the pack, his voice steady but heavy with conviction. The chamber was crowded, 30 pairs of eyes, some human, some lupine, fixed on him. The elders, grizzled and scarred, sat on stone benches, their expressions carved from distrust. "We can't hide forever," Rhys said, his words echoing off the damp walls. "Lumina is changing. The humans' magic and machines grow stronger, but so do we. Why live in shadows when we could walk in their light? His vision of coexistence, of werewolves integrating with luminous society, was met with murmurs of dissent. Elder Torn, his face weathered like cracked leather, spat into the fire. Naive, he growled. Humans hunt what they fear. You'd lead us to slaughter. The pack's younger members, like Kael, a wiry youth with restless eyes, shifted uneasily, torn between loyalty and Rhys's dangerous dream. Rhys's heart clenched, a familiar ache of responsibility and isolation. He was 30, young for an alpha, chosen for his strength, but burdened by his ideals. The pack was his family, bound by blood and moonlight, yet he felt like an outsider among them. His lunar magic, tied to the moon's phases, thrummed in his veins, stronger tonight as the waxing gibbous approached. It urged him to run, to shift, to howl, but he suppressed it, knowing the tunnels offered no space for such freedom. Instead, he patrolled the underbelly, checking wards that shielded the pack from Lumina's magical sensors. The wards, cobbled together from stolen artifacts and pack rituals, glowed faintly, their runes etched into the stone like veins of light. Each step reminded him of the fragility of their existence, a secret kept at the edge of discovery. At the chamber's edge, Rhys paused by a cracked mirror scavenged from an abandoned station. His reflection showed a man caught between worlds, human in form, wolf in spirit. He remembered his father, the previous alpha, who had died defending the pack from a rogue magical surge, a chaotic pulse that had nearly exposed them to Lumina's enforcers. That memory fueled his resolve, but also his doubt. Was his vision a betrayal of his father's sacrifice? He clenched his fists, claws pricking his palms, and turned away, the weight of leadership settling deeper into his bones. The pack relied on him, yet he yearned for a future they couldn't see, a future where moonlight didn't mean hiding. As night deepened, Rhys ventured to the upper tunnels, closer to Lumina's surface, where the city's pulse was a faint vibration. He stood beneath a grate, slivers of neon light from the plaza above slicing through the darkness. The air carried the electric tang of Lumina's magical grid, a reminder of the world that rejected his kind. His heightened senses caught the chatter of drones, the hum of transport pods, and the distant laughter of humans who knew nothing of the moon-touched. A sudden tremor ran through the ley lines, a faint ripple of instability that made his fur bristle beneath his skin. The grid was restless, a sign of the surge that would soon draw him to an abandoned subway station and to Seraphina. Unaware of her existence, Rhys felt only the stir of his magic, a restless pull towards something unknown, a spark waiting to ignite in the shadows of Lumina's underbelly. The air buzzed with the usual hum of holographic billboards and levitating transport pods. But tonight, an undercurrent of unease rippled through the streets. The magical grid, a network of ley lines woven into the city's infrastructure, pulsed erratically, sending faint tremors through the obsidian tiles of the central plaza. Streetlights flickered, their enchanted bulbs stuttering, and drones veered slightly off course, their sensors struggling to compensate. In the magical archive, Seraphina felt the disturbance like a jolt to her soul, her magic's sensitive blood singing with a restless energy that made her skin prickle. She stood at her desk, the silver orb from earlier glowing brighter, its runes pulsing in sync with the grid's instability. Her heart raced, a mix of fear and exhilaration, as if the magic within her was waking from a long slumber. Miles below, in the underbelly's labyrinth of abandoned subways, Rhys sensed the same disturbance. The bioluminescent fungi lining the tunnels flickered, casting erratic shadows across the damp stone. The pack's wards, etched into the walls, flared briefly, their protective runes straining against the sudden surge in magical energy. Rhys was patrolling a northern tunnel, his amber eyes scanning the darkness, when the ley lines quivered, a deep vibration that stirred his lunar magic. His senses sharpened, claws itching beneath his skin, ears catching the faint hum of the city above. The surge was no ordinary fluctuation. It was chaotic, dangerous, threatening to expose the pack's hidden lair. He sprinted toward the source, guided by instinct, his boots pounding against rusted tracks as he navigated toward an abandoned subway station, a forgotten relic buried beneath Lumina's northern district. The station, a cavernous ruin of cracked tiles and shattered columns, was a graveyard of the city's past. Cobwebs draped like veils over broken ticket booths, and vines snaked through gaps in the concrete, their leaves glowing faintly with residual magic. At the platform's center stood a rogue artifact, a jagged crystal the size of a fist, suspended in a cradle of twisted metal, pulsating with wild violet energy. It was a relic of the old world, likely stolen from the archive and abandoned here, now overloading with uncontrolled magic. Rhys approached, his lunar senses recoiling from the crystal's chaotic aura. He extended a hand, his palm glowing with moonlight, attempting to stabilize it, but the artifact resisted, its energy lashing out in arcs that scorched the platform. Sweat beaded on his brow, his muscles tensing as he fought to contain the surge, knowing failure could draw the magical enforcement agency's attention to the underbelly. Above, Seraphina slipped out of the archive, her scarf pulled tight against the evening chill. The pull of the search was irresistible, a magnetic force tugging at her soul, guiding her through Lumina's neon-lit streets. Her hazel eyes, flecked with gold, darted nervously as she passed crowds oblivious to the grid's distress, their laughter jarring against her growing dread. The pull led her to a rusted grate in a deserted alley, its bars cloaked in shadows. Heart pounding, she pried it open, revealing a spiral staircase descending into darkness. Each step echoed with the weight of her decision. To follow her magic was to risk everything, yet the call was too strong to ignore. The air grew damp and heavy, scented with earth and rust, as she emerged into the abandoned subway station, her breath catching at the sight of the crystal's violent glow.
Rhys's head snapped up as Seraphina entered, her presence a sudden spark in his senses. She stood at the platform's edge, her auburn braid loose, strands framing her pale face. Their eyes met, his amber, glowing with lunar intensity, hers gold-flecked, wide with awe and fear. Time seemed to pause, the surge's chaos fading to a distant hum as an inexplicable connection flared between them, a thread of magic binding their souls. Seraphina's sensitivity surged, her hands trembling as she instinctively stepped forward. "Let me help," she whispered, her voice steady despite her racing pulse. She didn't know why, but she felt the crystal's rhythm, its chaos resonating with her own suppressed power. Together they faced the artifact. Rhys channeled his lunar magic, a silvery glow enveloping his hands, calming the crystal's outer pulses. Seraphina, guided by instinct, extended her palms, her soul reaching out. A warm golden light flowed from her, delicate but resolute, weaving into Rhys's moonlight. The combined energies, sun and moon, formed a shimmering helix, wrapping the crystal in a cocoon of balance. The violet arcs softened, the artifact's glow stabilizing, its chaotic hum fading to a gentle pulse. The station fell silent, the air heavy with the afterglow of their magic. Seraphina's chest heaved, her body trembling with the effort, while Rhys stared at her, his expression a mix of wonder and recognition. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice low, almost reverent. They stood frozen, the crystal now dormant between them, its light reflecting in their eyes. The connection lingered, an invisible thread that pulsed with shared energy, binding them in a way neither could explain. Seraphina felt exposed, her secret laid bare, yet safe in his presence.
Rhys sensed a shift in his world, a spark of the future he dreamed of, embodied in this stranger. Above, Lumina's grid stabilized, the city unaware of the moment that had just changed its fate. Below, in the shadowed ruins of the station, Seraphina and Rhys stood on the precipice of destiny, their bond forged in the heat of the surge, a spark that would soon ignite a revolution.
The city of Lumina glowed under a velvet sky, its glass spires refracting starlight into prisms that danced across the polished obsidian streets. Holographic billboards flickered with vibrant advertisements, enchanted cloaks that shimmered with protective runes, AI oracles offering glimpses of tomorrow, while transport pods hummed along crystalline tracks, their soft chimes blending with the city's ever-present magical pulse. The magical grid, stabilized since the surge, thrummed steadily through the ley lines. But for Seraphina, its rhythm was no longer a distant hum. Her magic-sensitive soul, awakened by the encounter in the subway station, buzzed with a restless energy, as if the golden light she'd summoned alongside Rhys had left a permanent spark within her. At the magical archive, she moved through her routine with mechanical precision, cataloging artifacts behind gloved hands, but her hazel eyes, flecked with gold, wandered to the shadows, haunted by the memory of his amber gaze and the silvery glow of his lunar magic. Beneath the city, in the underbelly's labyrinth of abandoned subways and cavernous sewers, Rhys prowled with the predator's grace, his boots silent on rusted tracks. The tunnels were a world apart, their damp stone walls lit by bioluminescent fungi that cast an eerie green glow, mingling with the faint shimmer of protective wards etched into the rock. The air carried the scent of earth and rust, a stark contrast to Lumina's sterile vibrancy. The Pax lair was a cavernous subway hub, tense, the Elder's disapproval of Rhys's vision of coexistence sharper since the surge's near exposure. His leather jacket, patched and worn, hung heavy on his broad shoulders, his dark hair streaked with silver catching the firelight as he faced their murmurs. The surge had shaken him, not just for its danger, but for the woman whose magic had intertwined with his, a fleeting moment that felt like destiny. Her face, pale, freckled, framed by an auburn braid, lingered in his mind, her golden light a beacon in his dreams of a united future. Driven by the invisible thread of their bond, Rhys carved a subtle rune into a rusted grate in the northern alley where Seraphina had entered the subway station. The rune, a crescent moon entwined with the sun, glowed faintly, a silent invitation pulsing with his lunar magic. He waited in a hidden alcove, a forgotten maintenance room deep in the underbelly, its walls lined with rusted pipes that dripped into shallow puddles. A single crystal lantern, scavenged from a derelict platform, hung from a bent nail, casting an amber glow that softened the room's decay. The air was heavy, scented with damp metal and the faint tang of magic, but Rhys's presence warmed it, his amber eyes scanning the entrance, his heart a mix of hope and trepidation. He stood leaning against a wall, one hand tracing the scars on his forearm, his claws itching beneath his skin as the waxing moon amplified his restlessness.
Seraphina felt the rune's call as she left the archive, her scarf pulled tight against the evening chill. She navigated Lumina's neon-lit streets, her steps quickening as she passed crowds chattering about the latest mana-charged gadgets, their voices a blur against the tug in her soul. In the northern alley, shadowed by towering spires, she found the grate, its rune pulsing in sync with her heartbeat. Her fingers trembled as she pried it open, the metal cold against her skin, her breath catching with a mix of fear and longing. To follow this pull was to risk her carefully guarded secrecy, yet the memory of Rhys's strength, his magic weaving with hers, was too strong to resist. She descended a spiral staircase, its steps slick with moss, into the underbelly's darkness, her tunic brushing against the rough stone walls. The alcove was a sanctuary of shadows when she arrived, the lantern's amber light casting Rhys's silhouette in sharp relief. He straightened, his eyes softened as they met hers, a flicker of relief breaking through his guarded expression. "You came," he said, his voice low and rough, carrying vulnerability that belied his formidable frame. Seraphina stepped forward, her braids swaying, her fingers twisting the edge of her scarf.
"I felt you," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper, the words heavy with the truth of their connection. The air between them crackled, their magic stirring, a faint golden glow in her palms, a silvery shimmer in his. They sat on a crate, the wood creaking under their weight, and spoke in hushed tones. Seraphina shared her solitude, the archive's sterile isolation, the ache of hiding her sensitivity. Rhys spoke of his burden, the pack's fear, his dream of a world where moonlight didn't mean exile. Their words wove a fragile bridge, their shared loneliness a bond stronger than the city's ley lines. As the night deepened, the lantern's glow flickered, casting their shadows in a dance across the walls. Seraphina's fear of exposure battled her longing for connection, her heart pounding with the thrill of being seen. Rhys felt his wolfish instincts soften, drawn to her quiet strength, her magic a mirror to his own. They parted with a promise to meet again, their bond a secret flame kindled in the underbellied shadows, its warmth a defiance against the worlds that kept them apart. Above, Lumina's spires glittered, unaware of the spark growing below, a spark that would soon draw eyes from both the city and the pack.
In the heart of Lumina, where neon lights painted the night sky in hues of sapphire and magenta, the city thrummed with a restless energy, its glass spires reflecting the pulse of a magical grid, now stable, but ever watchful. Seraphina moved through this world with a new awareness, her magic-sensitive soul no longer a dormant ember, but a flickering flame, stoked by her clandestine meetings with Rhys. The archive, with its frosted brass walls and shelves of humming artifacts, felt more confining than ever, her gloved hands cataloging relics while her mind wandered to the underbelly's shadows. The silver orb from the Surge, now a quiet fixture on her desk, seemed to pulse faintly when she passed, as if echoing the golden light she'd unleashed alongside Rhys's silvery glow. Her hazel eyes, flecked with gold, held a spark of defiance, her heart torn between the safety of routine and the pull of a connection she couldn't ignore. Beneath the city, Rhys navigated the underbelly's tunnels, the bioluminescent fungi casting their eerie green light across damp stone and rusted tracks. The pack's lair buzzed with unease, the elders' disapproval a constant weight, but Rhys's thoughts were elsewhere, anchored to Seraphina's quiet strength and the warmth of her magic. Their secret meetings had become a lifeline, a defiance against the isolation of his role as Alpha. The rune he'd carved into the northern alley's grate, a crescent moon entwined with the sun, had drawn her back, and now their bond felt like a living thing, its pulse quickening with each stolen moment. His lunar magic, amplified by the nearing full moon, thrummed in his veins, urging him to seek her out, to weave his silvery light with her golden glow. Their meetings evolved into a ritual, each one a step deeper into intimacy. One night, they found refuge on a crumbling rooftop in Lumina's forgotten industrial district, a jagged platform of cracked concrete and twisted rebar, overlooking the city's glittering expanse. Luminescent moss clung to the edges, glowing faintly under the starlight, while holographic dragons coiled through the sky, their scales shimmering in advertisements for mana-infused tech. The air was crisp, scented with ozone and the faint sweetness of synthetic flowers from a nearby plaza.
Rhys sat beside her, his leather jacket discarded on the concrete, revealing a faded shirt stretched across his broad frame, scars crisscrossing his forearms like maps of past battles. His amber eyes, glowing softly in the moonlight, followed her every word, his usual guarded demeanor softening. He spoke of werewolf legends, his voice low and resonant, recounting tales of moon-touched heroes who once roamed under open skies, their howls a hymn to freedom. His hand brushed hers as he gestured, and the contact sent a spark through them, their magics flaring in response. Seraphina's golden light wove with his silvery glow, forming a delicate helix that shimmered in the air, casting fleeting patterns across the rooftop. The sight stole her breath, her cheeks flushing with a mix of awe and vulnerability, while Rhys felt his wolfish instincts quieted, drawn to the calm strength in her gaze. Their intimacy deepened in a forgotten tunnel,
its walls lined with glowing runes that pulse like heartbeats. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and metal, but their presence warmed it, the space a cocoon for their shared secrets. Seraphina, emboldened by their bond, let her magic flow freely, her palms radiating a warm golden light that illuminated Rhys's face. He responded instinctively, his lunar magic weaving silvery threads around her glow, their energies merging in a dance of light and shadow. Their first kiss came in that moment, tentative yet electric, her lips soft against his hands gentle on her face. The tunnel glowed brighter, their combined magic rippling through the ley lines, a silent pulse that went unnoticed by the city above, but marked a turning point in their hearts. On another night, they met in a hidden grove at Luminous Edge, where synthetic trees glowed with embedded enchantments, their leaves shimmering like liquid silver. Seraphina leaned against Rhys, her head resting on his shoulder, his arm encircling her as they sat on a patch of artificial grass. She spoke of her mother's sketches, a starry sky framed in her apartment, her voice breaking as she admitted her fear of never belonging. Rhys shared the weight of his father's death, killed by a rogue surge, his words heavy with guilt for dreaming beyond the pack's fear. Their vulnerabilities laid bare, they held each other, their magic humming in harmony, a golden-silver glow that seemed to soothe the grove's artificial pulse. Their first kiss came in that moment, tentative yet electric, her lips soft against his hands gentle on her face. The tunnel glowed brighter, their combined magic rippling through the ley lines, a silent pulse that went unnoticed by the city above, but marked a turning point in their hearts.
Lumina's nights were a symphony of light and sound, its glass spires aglow with holographic displays that cast kaleidoscopic patterns across the obsidian streets. The magical grid pulsed steadily through the city's ley lines, its hum a constant backdrop to the chatter of drones and the soft chimes of transport pods gliding overhead. But beneath this radiant facade, a shadow of unease was growing, stirred by the radiant bond between Seraphina and Rhys. At the magical archive, Seraphina's days were a tightrope walk between routine and recklessness, her magic-sensitive soul now a blazing ember, impossible to fully suppress. The silver orb from the surge, a constant on her desk, pulsed faintly when she passed, its runes glowing brighter as if responding to the golden light now woven into her essence. Her hazel eyes, flecked with gold, flickered with a mix of exhilaration and dread, her secret meetings with Rhys a lifeline that threatened to expose her to the Magical Enforcement Agency, or MEA's, watchful censors. In the underbelly, Rhys moved through the tunnels with a heightened weariness, the bioluminescent fungi casting their eerie green glow across damp stone walls and rusted tracks. The pack's lair, a cavernous subway hub, lit by a flickering fire pit, simmered with tension, the Elder's distrust of his vision for coexistence now a palpable weight. His leather jacket hung loose, his dark hair streaked with silver, catching the firelight as he faced their scrutiny, his amber eyes guarded. The bond with Seraphina, forged in the surge and deepened in stolen moments, was a secret flame that warmed his heart but endangered his leadership. Their combined magic, her golden light and his silvery glow, had sent ripples through the ley lines, subtle but growing, a beacon that could not stay hidden forever. Each night he slipped away to meet her, his lunar magic thrummed stronger, the full moon's approach amplifying his longing and his fear of discovery. The rooftop where they often met was their sanctuary, a crumbling relic in Lumina's industrial district, its concrete fractured and dusted with luminescent moss that glowed under the starlight. The city's spires loomed in the distance. Their neon glow was a stark contrast to the rooftop's decay, the air sharp with ozone and the faint hum of magic. On this night, Seraphina and Rhys sat close, her tunic brushing against his scarred arm, their laughter soft as they shared stories of forgotten magic and moonlit legends. Her golden light flickered unbidden, weaving with his silvery glow, casting a shimmering helix that danced across the moss. Unseen,
Kale, a young werewolf with sharp green eyes and a lean frame, crouched behind a rusted vent, his breath shallow with fury. He had trailed Rhys, suspicious of his absences, and now witnessed the unthinkable. An alpha entwined with a human, their magics blending in a forbidden dance. His heart pounded with betrayal, his loyalty to the pack's ancient code clashing with the admiration he once held for Rhys.
Kale fled to the lair, his boots echoing in the tunnels, his mind a storm of outrage. The fire pit's embers cast long shadows as he burst into the chamber, facing Elder Torin, whose weathered face was etched with scars and suspicion. "He's with a human," Kale spat, his voice trembling with conviction, the words slicing through the cavern's heavy air. "On the rooftop, their magics joined, human and moon-touched, defying our code." The elder's murmurs erupted into a storm, Torin's eyes narrowing like flint. "This is treason," he growled, his voice a rumble that shook the stone benches. The pack's code, forged in centuries of hiding, demanded isolation, and Rhys's actions were a dangerous breach. They convened in the firelight, plotting to confront their alpha, their anger a tide that threatened to sweep away his dreams of coexistence. Above, Seraphina's secret was unraveling in the archive's sterile halls. The silver orb, now pulsing in sync with her amplified magic, triggered a faint alarm during her shift, its chime sharp and accusing. Her colleagues in their white coats turned to stare, their whispers cutting. "She's different, too much energy around her." The archive's sensors linked to MEA detected an unregulated magical signature, stronger now due to her bond with Rhys. Seraphina's hands trembled as she logged a cracked amulet, her heart racing with dread. The MEA's drones, sleek and omnipotent, would soon trace the signal to her, their sensors attuned to anomalies. She fled the archive as dusk fell, her scarf trailing, her auburn braids swinging as she wove through Lumina's crowded streets, the city's lights blurring through her panicked gaze. Her mind reached for Rhys, their bond a golden silver thread pulling her toward the northern alley, her only refuge in a world closing in. In the underbelly, Rhys sensed her distress, a tug at his soul, as he stood in the lair, the elder's accusing eyes upon him. The air was thick with the smell of smoke and earth, the fire pit's glow casting his shadow long and wavering. He slipped away, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination, drawn to the alley where their runes still glowed. Above and below their worlds converged, the city's radiance and the underbelly's darkness poised to collide. Their love, a secret flame kindled in hidden corners, was now a beacon drawing eyes from both sides, its light too bright to remain unseen, its whispers of discovery heralding the trials that loomed ahead.
In the underbelly of Lumina, far below the city's radiant spires where holographic lights painted the night in vibrant hues, the air was thick with the scent of damp stone and smoldering embers. The pack's lair, a vast chamber carved from an abandoned subway hub, was a fortress of shadows, its walls etched with glowing runes that pulsed faintly with lunar magic. Bioluminescent fungi clung to the ceiling, casting an eerie green glow that mingled with the flickering light of a central fire pit, its flames licking at a pile of scavenged wood. Crates and tarps formed makeshift furniture, their edges worn by years of use, while the distant drip of water echoed through the tunnels, a reminder of the world above that shunned the moon-touched. The lair was alive with tension, the pack gathered in a tight circle, their eyes, some human, some lupine, gleaming with suspicion and anger. Rhys stood at the chamber's center, his broad frame silhouetted against the firelight, his leather jacket patched and worn, his dark hair streaked with silver falling into his amber eyes. The full moon was near, its pull amplifying his lunar magic, making his skin itch with the urge to shift, his claws pricking beneath his fingertips. But the weight of the pack's gaze held him still, their silence heavier than the stone walls. Call's accusation, his consorting with a human,
witnessed on the rooftop where his silvery glow had danced with Seraphina's golden light, had spread like wildfire, igniting the Elder's fury. Elder Torin, his vase a map of scars and wrinkles, sat on a stone bench, his hands clenched like gnarled roots. "You've betrayed us, Rhys," he growled, his voice a low rumble that stirred the embers. "A human, mingling with our kind, her magic tainting yours. You risk everything we fought to protect." The chamber erupted in murmurs, some pack members shifting uneasily, their loyalty to Rhys warring with their fear of exposure. Kull stood at Torin's side, his lean frame taut, his green eyes burning with righteous indignation. "I saw them. On the rooftop, their magics joined, human and moon touch defying our code. She's a threat, and he's leading us to ruin." Rhys's heart pounded, a storm of guilt and defiance within him. Seraphina's face flashed in his mind, her auburn braid, her hazel eyes flecked with gold, the warmth of her touch as their magics intertwined. Their bond, forged in the surge and deepened in secret, was a beacon of the coexistence he dreamed of, but to the pack it was treason, a violation of centuries spent hiding from Lumina's human world.
Rhys stepped forward, his voice steady despite the ache in his chest. "She's not our enemy," he said, his words echoing off the stone. "Seraphina's magic saved us during the surge. She's proof we can coexist, that we don't have to live in shadows." His amber eyes swept the chamber, pleading for understanding, but the elders' faces were stone. Torin rose, his presence commanding, his lunar magic flaring in a faint silver aura. "The code has kept us safe," he said, his voice cold as the tunnels. "Humans hunt what they fear. Your vision is folly, and your bond with her endangers us all. Choose, Rhys, your pack or the human." The ultimatum hung in the air, sharp and unyielding, a blade poised above his heart. The fire pit's flames cast long shadows, mirroring the turmoil in Rhys's soul. He thought of Seraphina's quiet strength, her golden light weaving with his, their kisses in the hidden grove where synthetic trees glowed with enchantment. She was his anchor, her magic a mirror to his own. Yet the pack was his blood, their survival his burden, since his father's death in a rogue surge. To choose her was to renounce his role as alpha, to risk exile, but to abandon her was to betray the future he believed in. His fists clenched, claws piercing his palms, a trickle of blood mingling with the dirt at his feet. The pack's eyes bore into him, some with anger, others with pity. Kayal's gaze the sharpest, a mix of betrayal and scorn. Rhys's heart wavered, torn between duty and love, but the memory of Seraphina's touch, her light blending with his, held him firm, a spark of defiance against the darkness of tradition. As the elders awaited his answer, the lair's wards flickered, sensing a disturbance in the ley lines, a faint echo of Seraphina's amplified magic, pulsing through Lumina's grid. Rhys felt it too, a tug at his soul, a reminder of the bond that now defined him. The chamber's air grew heavier, the fire pit's embers flaring as if mirroring the pack's unrest. Above, luminous spires glittered, unaware of the storm brewing below, but the whispers of discovery were spreading, and Rhys's choice would soon ripple through both worlds, threatening to shatter the fragile balance he and Seraphina had begun to forge.
Lumina's dawn broke with a blaze of light, its glass spires catching the sun's rays and scattering them into a dazzling array of amber and violet across the obsidian streets. The city hummed with its usual rhythm. Holographic billboards flickered with advertisements for mana-charged wearables, transport pods glided along crystalline tracks, and drones patrolled the skies, their sensors glinting like predatory eyes. But beneath this radiant surface, a silent alarm was stirring, triggered by the golden pulse of Seraphina's magic-sensitive soul, now amplified by her bond with Rhys. The magical archive, a monolithic structure of frosted glass and chrome, stood as her fragile sanctuary, its shelves laden with artifacts that whispered of ancient power. Seraphina stood at her desk, her gloved hands trembling as she catalogued a cracked amulet, its faint glow pulsing in sync with her own restless energy. Her hazel eyes, flecked with gold, darted nervously, haunted by the memory of Rhys's amber gaze and the silvery light of their shared magic, a secret that now threatened to unravel her carefully guarded life. The silver orb from the surge, a constant presence on her desk, had grown increasingly responsive, its runes flaring brighter each time she passed. This morning, as she logged its properties into the holographic ledger, a sharp chime echoed through the archive's sterile halls, an alarm from the artifact monitoring system linked directly to the MEA. The sound sliced through her, her heart lurching with a surge of panic. Her colleagues, in their crisp white coats, turned to stare, their murmurs sharp and accusing. It's her again, always near when things go wrong. Seraphina's cheeks flushed, her fingers fumbling with the ledger, the weight of their suspicion pressing against her chest. The orb's glow intensified, its energy resonating with the golden light now woven into her soul, a byproduct of her rooftop meetings with Rhys, where their magics had danced in a shimmering helix. She knew the MEA's drones would soon trace the signal, their sensors attuned to unregulated magic. And her secret, her sensitivity, her bond with a moon-touched alpha would be exposed. She forced herself to continue working, her movements mechanical, but the archive felt like a trap closing around her. The air was heavy with the scent of aged parchment and ozone, the runes etched into the walls pulsing faintly, as if mocking her inability to hide. Her mind raced to Rhys, their last meeting on the crumbling rooftop where his touch had steadied her, his silvery glow calming her golden light. But that same bond, radiant and undeniable, was now a beacon drawing danger. She glanced at the archive's skylights, where the city's light filtered through, casting prismatic patterns that felt like a spotlight on her guilt. Her scarf, a faded relic of her mother's, was clutched tightly in her hand, a futile shield against the growing dread. She needed to warn Rhys, to find him in the underbelly where their secret had taken root, but leaving now would only confirm her colleagues' suspicions.
As the day wore on, the archive sensors triggered another alarm, this one louder, its chime reverberating through the halls. A holographic display flickered to life above her desk, projecting a red alert. Unregulated magical signature detected. Source, Seraphina Vey. Her breath caught, her body freezing as the words burned into her vision. Her colleagues stepped back, their whispers turning to open stares, some with fear, others with disdain. "She's an anomaly," one muttered, the word cutting deeper than any blade. The archive's overseer, a stern woman with silver hair and a tablet glowing with data, approached, her expression unreadable. "Step away from the artifacts, Seraphina," she said, her voice cold. "The MEA has been notified." The words were a death knell, each syllable tightening the noose of her exposure. Panic surged, her golden light flaring unbidden, a faint glow seeping through her gloves. She bolted, her satchel slung over her shoulder, her auburn braid swinging as she wove through the archive's maze of shelves. The artifacts seemed to hum in her wake, their energies stirring as if drawn to her distress. She burst into the courtyard, the synthetic grass and metallic benches a blur, the humming wards closing in like a cage. The city beyond was a glittering trap, its drones already converging, their sleek forms glinting in the sunlight. She slipped into an alley, her heart pounding, her mind reaching for Rhys through their bond, a golden silver thread that pulsed with urgency. The Northern alley, where his rune glowed, was her only hope, a beacon in the underbelly where she might find refuge. Above, Lumina's spires stood indifferent, their radiance masking the storm brewing within. Below, Rhys faced the Pack's ultimatum, unaware of the danger closing in on Seraphina. Her exposure was a mirror to his own, their bond a spark that had ignited both worlds. As she fled toward the grate, her scarf trailing in the wind, the city's pulse seemed to mock her, its light too bright, its eyes too many.
The whispers of discovery, born in the shadows of their love, were now a chorus, threatening to drown them both in the consequences of their forbidden dance.
The underbelly of Lumina was a world of eternal twilight, its tunnels lit by the sickly green glow of bioluminescent fungi and the faint shimmer of lunar wards etched into damp stone walls. The pack's lair, a cavernous subway hub, thrummed with the weight of judgment, the central fire pit casting flickering shadows across the faces of 30 werewolves, their eyes, some human, some lupine, fixed on Rhys. The air was thick with the scent of smoke and earth, the distant drip of water a steady counterpoint to the elders' heavy silence. Rhys stood at the chamber center, his leather jacket scuffed, his dark hair streaked with silver falling into his amber eyes, which burned with a mix of defiance and anguish. The full moon's pull, now at its peak, surged through his veins, his lunar magic itching to break free, claws pricking his palms. Elder Torrin's ultimatum, choose Rhys, your pack or the human, hung like a guillotine. The pack's code a chain forged by centuries of fear. Kael's accusation, his voice still echoing with betrayal, had painted Rhys's bond with Seraphina as treason, a threat to their hidden existence. Rhys's heart pounded, each beat a battle between duty and love. Seraphina's face filled his mind, her auburn braid, her hazel eyes flecked with gold, the golden light of her magic weaving with his silvery glow on the rooftop, in the grove, in the tunnels. Their bond, born in the surge and deepened in stolen moments, was more than love. It was a vision of coexistence, a future where moon-touched and humans could share Lumina's light. "She's not a threat," Rhys said, his voice steady but raw, cutting through the lair's tension. "Seraphina saved us during the search. Her magic is our strength, not our ruin. We can't hide forever." Torrin's scarred face twisted, his silver aura flaring. "You'd trade our safety for a human's touch?" he roared, the pack murmuring in agreement, Kael's green eyes glinting with scorn. Rhys clenched his fists, blood trickling from where his claws pierced his skin, the pain grounding him. He chose Seraphina, renouncing his alpha status, his words a quiet thunder. "I choose her and the future she represents." The lair erupted, elders shouting, Kael lunging forward only to be restrained. Torrin's voice was cold. "You are no alpha. Leave us." Banished, Rhys turned, his shadow long against the firelight, his heart heavy but resolute. Above, luminous spires glittered under a star-strewn sky, their neon glow indifferent to the chaos unfolding in its streets. Seraphina fled through the city, her scarf trailing, her auburn braid swinging as she dodged crowds and drones, their sensors glinting like predatory stars. The MEA's alert, unregulated magical signature, detected, had branded her an anomaly, her amplified magic, sparked by her bond with Rhys, a beacon she couldn't dim. Her soul pulsed with golden light, its warmth now a curse, as she raced toward the northern alley, the rune-marked grate her only hope.
But the MEA was faster. As she emerged into a deserted plaza, its obsidian tiles reflecting the city's lights, a squad of agents materialized, their sleek black uniforms emblazoned with glowing runes. Drones hovered above, their red sensors locking onto her. Seraphina froze, her breath shallow, her golden light flaring unbidden, illuminating her pale, freckled face. The lead agent, Mara, a woman with sharp features and eyes like polished steel, stepped forward, her tablet glowing with data. "Seraphina Vey," she said, her voice calm but authoritative. "You're coming with us." Seraphina's heart sank, her mind racing with images of containment cells, her magic stripped away. She backed away, her satchel clutched tight, her voice trembling. "I'm not a threat," she pleaded. But the agents closed in, their runes humming with containment spells. Then Mara paused, her expression shifting from duty to curiosity, her eyes narrowing as she studied Seraphina's glow. "You're more than you seem," she said, her voice softening, devoid of hostility. "We've been watching, Seraphina, not to contain you, but to understand. Your magic, it's not just sensitivity, it's something older, rarer." The words hung in the air, a cryptic promise that stirred both hope and confusion in Seraphina's chest. The plaza's lights flickered, the ley lines pulsing with her amplified energy, echoing Rhys's defiance below. Their choices, his to renounce his pack, hers to face her pursuers, were converging. Their bond, a spark that had set both worlds alight, its true nature still a mystery waiting to unfold.
Lumina's night was a canvas of light, its glass spires shimmering under a star-flecked sky, their reflections dancing across the obsidian streets below. The city's magical grid pulsed steadily through the ley lines, its hum a quiet undercurrent beneath the flicker of holographic billboards and the soft chimes of transport pods gliding above. But within the sterile walls of the Magical Enforcement Agency, MEA, headquarters, a sleek fortress of chrome and glass at the city's heart, a different kind of energy stirred. Seraphina sat in a holding room, its walls smooth and featureless, glowing faintly, with containment rooms that buzzed like distant bees. The air was cool, scented with antiseptic and the faint tang of ozone, a stark contrast to the damp earth of the underbelly where her bond with Rhys had flourished. Her auburn braid was disheveled, her gray tunic creased, her hazel eyes flecked with gold, wide with a mix of fear and defiance. Her hands, no longer gloved, trembled in her lap, her golden light pulsing faintly, uncontainable despite the room's wards. The memory of Rhys's choice, renouncing his pack for her, burned in her heart, a golden silver thread that tethered her to hope, even as the MEA's drones hovered outside, their red sensors glinting through a narrow window. Agent Mara stood before her, her sharp features softened by an unexpected curiosity, her black uniform pristine, its runes glowing faintly with authority. Her tablet, a sleek device etched with data streams, cast a cold light across her face as she studied Seraphina. "We've been looking for you, Seraphina," Mara said, her voice steady but laced with a reverence that made Seraphina's breath catch. "Not to contain you, but to protect you. You're not just a magic sensitive. You're a Solis Mage." The words struck like a thunderbolt, reverberating through Seraphina's mind. She leaned forward, her heart pounding, her golden light flaring unbidden, casting shadows that danced across the room's sterile walls. "A Solis Mage?" she whispered, her voice trembling with disbelief. Mara nodded, her steel-gray eyes intense. "A rare human with sun magic, the ancient counterpart to the moon-touched. Your lineage isn't just seers, it's keepers of the balance, guardians of a cosmic harmony lost to luminous progress."
Mara activated her tablet, projecting a holographic archive of ancient texts, their runes shimmering in the air. Images flickered, golden figures wielding radiant light, standing alongside shadowy forms glowing with lunar energy, their union a beacon against a backdrop of warring magics. "The Solis Mages and Moon-Touched once maintained equilibrium," Mara explained, her voice steady but urgent. "Lumina's leaders have sought a Solis Mage for generations to ally with the werewolves, to end centuries of conflict. Your bond with Rhys, it's not a mistake, it's destiny." Seraphina's mind reeled, her memories of the surge flashing, her golden light weaving with Rhys's silvery glow, stabilizing the rogue artifact. The rooftop meetings, the hidden grove, their kisses under synthetic trees, all were pieces of a puzzle now snapping into place. Her solitude, her outcast status, her sensitivity, it was all part of a greater purpose, one she'd never dared imagine. The room's runes pulsed, reacting to her surging emotions, her golden light growing brighter, warmer, filling the space with a dawn-like glow.
Seraphina's fear gave way to a burgeoning sense of empowerment, her hand steadying as she absorbed Mara's words. Yet doubt lingered. Her magic was untrained, her life one of hiding, and the city's technological grip felt suffocating. "Why now?" she asked, her voice firmer, her eyes locking onto Mara's. "Why me?" Mara's expression softened, almost wistful. "Your bond with Rhys amplified your magic, made it impossible to hide. The city's been watching the moon touched, but their secrecy kept us apart. You bridged that gap, Seraphina. You're the key." The words were a weight and a wings, grounding her in responsibility while lifting her with purpose. She thought of Rhys, banished from his pack, his amber eyes filled with defiance and love, and felt their bond pulse stronger, a golden silver thread that transcended the city's walls. Outside, luminous spires glowed, unaware of the revelation unfolding within. Below, in the underbelly's shadows, Rhys wandered, a lone wolf driven by his choice, his lunar magic restless under the full moon's pull. The holding room's window framed the city's light, a reminder of the world Seraphina now stood to change. Mara stepped back, her tablet dimming, her voice a quiet command. "We need you, Seraphina, but first we need to find Rhys." Seraphina nodded, her heart swelling with resolve, her golden light steadying into a radiant beacon. Her identity as a Solis Mage was no longer a secret to hide, but a destiny to embrace. A spark that would soon draw Rhys back to her, their bond the cornerstone of a new balance for Lumina.
The underbelly of Lumina was a shadowed labyrinth, its tunnels weaving beneath the city's radiant spires like veins beneath skin. The air was thick with the scent of damp stone and rusk, lit only by the eerie green glow of bioluminescent fungi and the faint pulse of lunar wards etched into the walls. Rhys wandered these passages alone, his leather jacket tattered, his dark hair streaked with silver, matted with sweat, his amber eyes dimmed by the weight of exile. The full moon's pull surged through him, his lunar magic restless, urging him to shift, but the pain of his pack's rejection anchored him in human form. The Lair's firelit judgment, Elder Torin's ultimatum, Kael's accusing glare, the pack's murmurs of betrayal, echoed in his mind, each word a stone in the burden he carried. Yet Seraphina's face, her auburn braid, her hazel eyes flecked with gold, the golden light of her magic weaving with his silvery glow, remained a beacon. Their bond a golden silver thread that pulsed through the ley lines, guiding him toward an unknown future. Above, luminous spires glittered under a starlit sky, their glass surfaces reflecting the neon dance of holographic billboards and the hum of transport pods gliding through the night. The Magical Enforcement Agency, the MEA, headquarters loomed at the heart of the city, a fortress of chrome and glass where Seraphina sat, her newly revealed identity as a Solis Mage still ringing in her ears. Rhys felt her through their bond, a tug of golden warmth amidst his turmoil, pulling him toward the northern alley where their rune-marked grate lay hidden. He emerged from the tunnels, the city's ozone-scented air sharp against his skin, and slipped into the alley's shadows, his boots silent on the obsidian pavement. The rune, a crescent moon entwined with a sun, glowed faintly, its pulse syncing with his heartbeat. As he pried open the grate, a drone's red sensor glinted above, but he decked into the underbelly just as Agent Mara's voice called out, "Rhys, we need to talk."
Mara found him in a forgotten tunnel, its walls lined with rusted pipes and glowing runes, the air heavy with the scent of earth and metal. Her black uniform gleamed with authority, her steel-gray eyes sharp but not unkind, her tablet casting a cold light across the damp stone. Rhys tensed, his claws pricking, ready to flee, but Mara raised a hand, her voice calm. "I'm not here to hunt you," she said. "Seraphina's with us, safe. She's a Solis Mage, Rhys, the sun to your moon. Your bond is the key to a prophecy we've chased for centuries." She activated her tablet, projecting holographic images of ancient texts, moon-touched warriors standing beside radiant figures, their magics intertwined, balancing a world torn by conflict. "Lumina's known of your kind," Mara continued, "but your pack secrecy kept us apart. Seraphina's magic, amplified by you, brought her to us. You're not a traitor. You're a pioneer." Rhys's breath caught, his amber eyes widening as the weight of her words settled. The prophecy mirrored his vision of coexistence, the dream that had cost him his pack. Seraphina's golden light, her quiet strength, their moments on the rooftop and in the grove, they were not just love but destiny, a cosmic balance of sun and moon. His heart swelled with a mix of awe and relief, the pain of exile giving way to purpose. "Where is she?" he asked, his voice rough but steady, his lunar magic flaring in a silvery aura. Mara gestured toward the surface. "At headquarters. Come with me." They ascended, the city's lights flooding the alley as they emerged, the spires a glittering backdrop to Rhys's racing thoughts. He thought of his father, killed by a rogue surge, and saw his sacrifice not as a warning, but a call to forge a new path. At the MEA's headquarters, Rhys found Seraphina in the holding room, its sterile walls glowing with containment runes. She stood as he entered, her tunic creased, her auburn braid loose, her golden light a soft radiance that warmed the cold space. Their eyes met, and the bond flared, a golden-silver helix shimmering between them. "Rhys," she whispered, her voice trembling with relief. He crossed the room in 2 strides, pulling her into his arms, his scarred hands gentle against her face. "You're a Solis Mage, Rhys, and I'm with you." Mara watched, her tablet dimming, her expression one of quiet triumph. "Together you can bridge our worlds, but there are those, pack and city, who will resist." Rhys nodded, his amber eyes resolute, his lunar magic steadying as he embraced his role, no longer an alpha, but a visionary bound to Seraphina, their love the spark of a revolution.
Outside, Lumina's grid pulsed, its ley lines carrying the echo of their combined magic. The city's radiance masked the growing dissent, Kale's fury in the underbelly, skeptics within Lumina's council, but Rhys stood firm, his hand in Seraphina's, their bond a beacon of balance. The prophecy was no longer a dream, but a path, one they would walk together, their sun and moon magics poised to reshape Lumina's future. Lumina's dawn painted the city in hues of gold and rose, its glass spires catching the first light and scattering it across the obsidian streets below. The magical grid pulsed through the ley lines, a steady hum beneath the flicker of holographic billboards and the soft chimes of transport pods gliding through the morning mist. Inside the Magical Enforcement Agency, MEA's headquarters, a fortress of chrome and glass, Seraphina and Rhys stood side by side, their bond a golden silver thread that pulsed with newfound purpose. The sterile holding room, with its glowing containment runes, had been replaced by a training chamber, a vast domed space with walls of reinforced crystal etched with runes that shimmered in response to magical energy. The air was crisp, scented with ozone and the faint metallic tang of enchanted technology, a stark contrast to the damp earth of the underbelly where their love had first taken root. Seraphina's auburn braid was neatly tied, her gray tunic replaced by a sleek, rune-embroidered vest that allowed her golden light to flow freely. Rhys, his leather jacket discarded, wore a fitted tunic that revealed the scars crisscrossing his arms, his amber eyes bright with determination under the full moon's lingering pull. Agent Mara, her black uniform pristine, stood before them, her steel-gray eyes sharp but encouraging. Her tablet, glowing with data, projected a holographic map of Lumina's ley lines, their paths intertwining like veins of light. "You're the bridge," she said, her voice steady but urgent. "Seraphina, as a Solis Mage, your sun magic balances Rhys's lunar energy. Together you can unite Lumina and the moon touched, but you must master your powers.
Seraphina's heart raced, a mix of awe and apprehension, her golden light flaring softly in her palms. The revelation of her identity as a Solis Mage, keeper of cosmic balance, heir to a lineage of sun-wielding guardians, still felt like a mantle too large for her once solitary life. Rhys's hand brushed hers, his silvery glow a calming presence, grounding her. "We'll do this together," he said, his voice low and resolute, his lunar magic a steady pulse that synced with her own.
Their training began in the chamber, its crystal walls amplifying their magic. Mara guided Seraphina to summon her sun magic, teaching her to shape it into radiant shields that shimmered like liquid gold. Seraphina focused, her hazel eyes flecked with gold narrowing as she raised her hands, her light coalescing into a barrier that pulsed with warmth. The effort left her breathless, her body trembling with the intensity, but Rhys's presence steadied her. He wove his lunar magic, silvery threads spiraling around her shield, strengthening it with a cool, stabilizing energy. Their magics danced, a golden-silver helix that lit the chamber like a miniature dawn, the runes on the walls flaring in response. Mara nodded, her tablet recording the synergy. "Your bond amplifies your power," she said, "but it's also a target. The Pack and Lumina skeptics will resist this alliance." Outside the headquarters, the city bustled, unaware of the revolution brewing within. But dissent was stirring. In the underbelly, Kale and his loyalists, fueled by Elder Torrhen's fury, plotted in the shadows of the lair, their whispers echoing off the firelit stone. Above, whispers spread through Lumina's archive where Seraphina's colleagues questioned her sudden absence, the murmurs tinged with fear of her unregulated magic. Seraphina felt the weight of these threats, her golden light flickering with doubt, but Rhys's touch, a hand on her shoulder, his scars rough against her skin, reignited her resolve. They trained for hours, their magics blending in intricate patterns. Seraphina's radiant beams countered by Rhys's lunar shields, their movements a dance of balance, honed in the hidden corners of their past meetings. As dusk fell, they were released from the headquarters, tasked with forging the alliance. They stood in a hidden grove at Lumina's edge, where synthetic trees glowed with embedded enchantments, their leaves shimmering like silver coins. The air was cool, scented with artificial blossoms and the faint hum of the city's grid. Seraphina leaned against Rhys, her head on his chest, his arms encircling her as their magics pulsed in harmony. "We're not alone anymore," she whispered, her voice steady despite the lingering fear of opposition. Rhys nodded, his amber eyes scanning the horizon, his lunar magic a soft glow that mingled with her golden light. "We are the balance," he said, his voice firm with conviction, "no matter who stands against us." The grove's light flickered, the ley lines carrying the echo of their combined power, a beacon of their new purpose. Yet the shadows of resistance, Kale's rebellion, the city's skeptics loomed, their whispers a growing storm that threatened the fragile alliance Seraphina and Rhys were beginning to build.
Beneath Lumina's radiant surface, where glass spires pierced the twilight sky and holographic billboards cast their neon glow across obsidian streets, the underbelly seethed with rebellion. The Pack's lair, a cavernous subway hub buried deep in the city's forgotten depths, was a fortress of shadows, its damp stone walls illuminated by the sickly green glow of bioluminescent fungi and the faint pulse of lunar warts. The air was thick with the scent of smoke and earth, the central fire pit's embers crackling as they cast jagged shadows across the faces of the werewolves gathered within. Crates and tarps, scavenged from abandoned tunnels, formed a rough circle around the fire, where Kale stood, his lean frame taut with fury, his green eyes blazing like jade in the dim light. His dark hair was swept back, his hands clenched into fists, claws pricking his palms as the full moon's lingering pull amplified his lunar magic. The elders, led by Torrhen, whose scarred face was etched with unyielding resolve, flanked him, their murmurs a low growl of dissent. Rhys's banishment, his choice of a human, Seraphina, over the Pack, had ignited a firestorm. And Kale, once his loyal follower, now led the charge to protect their ancient code. Tail paced before the fire pit, his voice sharp and venomous, slicing through the cavern's heavy air. Rhys betrayed us, he declared, his words echoing off the stone. He chose a human, a Solis Mage they call her, over our blood, our secrecy. He'd have us bow to Lumina's humans, expose us to their machines and their chains. The pack stirred, some nodding, others shifting uneasily, their lupine eyes glinting with fear and anger. Torin raised a gnarled hand, his silver aura flaring. The moon touch survived by hiding. He growled, "This alliance is surrender. We'll stop it, by force if we must." Kale's heart pounded, a mix of righteous fury and personal betrayal. He had idolized Rhys, seen him as a brother, but the image of Rhys on the rooftop, his silvery glow entwined with Seraphina's golden light, burned in his mind like a wound. The pack's code, forged in centuries of survival, demanded isolation, and Kale would not let it fall.
In a shadowed corner of the lair, Kyle and his loyalists, a dozen young werewolves, their faces hardened by fear of the human world, gathered around a stolen artifact, a jagged obsidian shard pulsing with dark lunar energy. It was a relic from the archive, smuggled years ago, its runes etched with forbidden spells that could amplify their magic. The air around it hummed, distorting the fungi's glow, as Kyle traced its surface, his claws sparking against the stone. "We'll strike the city's outposts," he said, his voice low but resolute. "Disrupt their grid, blame the Solis Mage, let Lumina see her as a threat." The plan was desperate, born of anger and fear, but the pack's survival depended on it. Torin nodded, his eyes cold as flint. "The moon guides us," he said, his aura flaring, binding the rebels in a shared resolve. The artifact's energy pulsed, a dark mirror to the golden-silver helix of Seraphina and Rhys's bond, its power a weapon to tear their alliance apart. Above, luminous streets bustled, unaware of the storm brewing below. Seraphina and Rhys, released from the MEA's headquarters, stood in the hidden grove at the edge of the city, where synthetic trees glowed with embedded enchantments, their leaves shivering like liquid silver. Their training had begun, their magics weaving in a radiant dance. But Seraphina felt a tremor through their bond, a golden-silver thread now tinged with unease. Rhys's amber eyes scanned the horizon, his scarred hands steadying her, his lunar magic a calming presence. "Something's wrong," he murmured, sensing the underbelly's unrest through the ley lines. The grove's artificial blossoms rustled, the city's pulse a distant hum, but the echoes of Kyle's rebellion were growing louder, a shadow creeping toward their fragile purpose. In the lair, Kyle lifted the obsidian shard, its dark light casting his face in stark relief. The pack chanted, their voices a low howl that stirred the wards, their lunar magic coalescing into a storm of intent. The rebellion was no longer a whisper, but a roar. Its target, the heart of Lumina's alliance, Seraphina and Rhys, whose love had sparked a revolution, but now faced the wrath of those bound by fear. The fire pit's flames flared, the underbelly shadows deepening, as Kyle's plan took shape, a desperate bid to preserve the pack's secrecy at the cost of the balance they unknowingly threatened.
Lumina shimmered under a midday sun, its glass spires refracting light into a dazzling array of prisms that danced across the obsidian streets, casting fleeting rainbows on the faces of passers-by. Holographic billboards pulsed with advertisements for enchanted tech, their vibrant colors blending with the hum of transport pods gliding along crystalline tracks and the ever-present buzz of MEA drones patrolling the skies. The magical grid, woven through the city's ley lines, thrummed with a steady rhythm, but beneath this radiant facade, a current of unease was rising. Seraphina's revelation as a Solis Mage and her alliance with Rhys, the moon-touched visionary, had sparked hope in some, but fear in others. Their combined golden-silver magic, a beacon that unsettled Lumina's delicate balance of technology and tradition. At the magical archive, Whispers of her absence and her newfound power spread like wildfire, fueling suspicion among those who guarded the city's order. Councillor Vren, a towering figure in Lumina's technocratic elite, stood in the council chamber, a vast, circular room of polished chrome and glass at the heart of the city's administrative spire. The chamber's walls were embedded with holographic displays, projecting real-time data on the grid's stability, while runes etched into the floor glowed faintly, amplifying the room's authority. Vren's silver hair was slicked back, his angular face set in a mask of calculated calm, his eyes a cold blue that missed nothing. Clad in a tailored robe of iridescent fabric, he exuded power, his presence dominating the council's debates. But beneath his polished exterior burned a deep-seated fear of the unknown. Seraphina's sun magic, unregulated and ancient, threatened the technological harmony he had spent decades cultivating. "This Solis Mage is a wild card," he declared, his voice smooth but edged with disdain, addressing the counselors seated around a crystalline table. "Her power, tied to a moon-touched renegade, risks destabilizing our grid. We cannot allow it." The chamber buzzed with murmurs, some counselors nodding, others shifting uneasily, their tablets glowing with reports of Seraphina's amplified magic. Vren's influence was formidable, his rhetoric stoking fears of chaos. He had secretly funded anti-werewolf propaganda, spreading hollow flyers that depicted the Moon-Touched as feral savages, their lunar magic a threat to luminous progress. At the archive, Seraphina's colleagues, once dismissive, now fearful, gossiped in hushed tones, their white coats stark against the shelves of humming artifacts. "She's unnatural," one whispered, glancing at the silver orb on Seraphina's empty desk, its runes still faintly pulsing from her last touch. "A Solis Mage? She'll bring the werewolves down on us." The archive's overseer, her silver hair pinned tightly, reported the anomalies to Ryn, her loyalty swayed by his promises of stability. The city's pulse, once a comforting hum, now felt oppressive. Its drones circling closer, their sensors attuned to Seraphina's golden light.
Seraphina felt the weight of this suspicion, even in the hidden grove where she and Rhys trained, its synthetic trees glowing with embedded enchantments, their leaves shimmering like liquid silver. Her rune-embroidered vest allowed her sun magic to flow freely, her golden light weaving with Rhys's silvery glow as they practiced under Agent Mara's guidance. But each flare of her power sent a ripple through the ley lines, a reminder of the eyes watching her. Her hazel eyes, flecked with gold, flickered with unease, her auburn braids swaying as she summoned a radiant shield, her hands trembling with the effort. Rhys steadied her, his scarred hand on hers, his amber eyes warm with reassurance. "They'll see what we can do," he said, his voice firm, his lunar magic a cool counterpoint to her warmth. But Seraphina's heart clenched, the whispers of luminous skeptics echoing in her mind, their fear a mirror to the pack's rebellion brewing below. Vren's campaign intensified, his hollow flyers flooding the streets, their images of snarling werewolves sparking panic in markets and plazas. He met secretly with the faction of technocrats in a shadowed lounge, its walls lined with screens displaying grid analytics, the air heavy with the scent of synthetic wine. "The Solis Mage must be contained," he murmured, his fingers tracing the edge of a tablet. "If she and the werewolf destabilize the grid, our city falls." His allies nodded, their fear of change outweighing their trust in Amara's vision. The ley lines pulsed, carrying the echo of Seraphina and Rhys's combined magic, but also the growing discord Vren sowed. Above, luminous spires stood radiant, but below the underbelly's rebellion, Kael's dark artifact and Torin's wrath mirrored the city's descent. Two storms converging on the fragile alliance Seraphina and Rhys fought to build.
Lumina's twilight cast a soft glow over the city, its glass spires refracting the fading light into a mosaic of amber and indigo, their reflections shimmering across the obsidian streets. The magical grid pulsed through the ley lines, its hum a steady heartbeat beneath the flicker of holographic billboards and the gentle glide of transport pods. But at the city's northern edge, where a remote outpost, a low, fortified structure of chrome and concrete housing a ley line regulator, stood sentinel, chaos erupted. Kael and his werewolf rebels, driven by fury and fear of Seraphina and Rhys's alliance, had struck, wielding a stolen obsidian shard that pulsed with dark lunar energy. The outpost wards flared, their runes glowing red as the artifact unleashed a lunar storm, a swirling vortex of silvery black energy that crackled through the air, shattering windows and sending drones spiraling out of control. The storm's howl echoed through the streets, a primal challenge to Lumina's order, its dark light a twisted mirror to the golden silver helix of Seraphina and Rhys's bond. Seraphina and Rhys, alerted by Agent Mara, raced to the outpost, their bond a golden silver thread pulsing with urgency. Seraphina's rune-embroidered vest glowed faintly, her auburn braid swinging as she ran, her hazel eyes flecked with gold wide with determination and fear. Rhys, his scarred arms bared in a fitted tunic, moved with a predator's grace, his amber eyes glowing under the lingering pull of the full moon, his lunar magic simmering beneath his skin. The outpost loomed ahead, its chrome surface scorched, its wards flickering as the lunar storm raged. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and burning metal, the ground trembling with the ley lines' distress. Seraphina's heart pounded, her golden light flaring unbidden, a radiant warmth that clashed with the storm's cold fury. Rhys's hand found hers, his silvery glow weaving with her light, their bond a steadying force as they faced the chaos. Kael stood at the storm's heart, the obsidian shard raised in his trembling hand, its dark energy amplifying his lunar magic into a maelstrom. His lean frame was taut, his green eyes blazing with righteous anger, his dark hair whipping in the storm's wind. "You've brought this, Rhys," Kael shouted, his voice cutting through the howl. "Your human will destroy us." The accusation stung, but Rhys stood firm, his silvery aura flaring as he stepped forward. "This isn't betrayal, Kael," he called, his voice steady but heavy with sorrow. "It's survival. Join us or stand against the future." Seraphina's golden light surged, forming a radiant shield that pulsed with warmth, protecting them from the storm's arcs of dark energy.
The clash was immediate and fierce. Kael thrust the shard forward, unleashing a wave of silvery black lightning that struck Seraphina's shield, the impact shaking the ground. She staggered, her breath catching, but Rhys's lunar magic wove around her, strengthening the shield with silvery threads. Together, they pushed back, their golden silver helix spiraling toward the storm's core, its light cutting through the darkness like a dawn breaking. The outpost's wards stabilized, their runes glowing brighter as the Leylans responded to their balance. Kael's rebels lunged, their claws slashing, but Seraphina's light flared, a radiant pulse that repelled them, while Rhys's silvery shields deflected their blows. The storm faltered, its vortex shrinking as their combined magic overwhelmed the shard's power. Emotions swirled as fiercely as the storm. Seraphina's heart ached for Kael's pain, his fear a mirror to her own past isolation. But her resolve held, her golden light a testament to her purpose as a Solis Mage. Rhys felt the weight of his banishment, Kael's betrayal a wound deeper than any claw, yet his love for Seraphina and their shared vision drove him forward. The rebels hesitated, some faltering under the radiant harmony of their magic, but Kael's fury held firm, his shard glowing darker. The clash ended as Seraphina and Rhys's helix enveloped the shard, their light neutralizing its energy, the storm collapsing into a quiet shimmer. Kael fell to his knees, the shard dimming, his eyes wide with shock and defiance. The outpost stood intact, its wards humming, but the ley lines carried the echo of the battle, a warning of greater conflicts to come. Above, luminous spires glittered, unaware of the clash, but Counselor Vren's skeptics seized the chaos, their hollow flyers spreading fear of the Moon-Touched and the Solis Mage. Below, the Underbelly's rebels retreated, their resolve shaken but not broken. Seraphina and Rhys stood amidst the outpost's scorched remains, their hands clasped, their magic still intertwined, their bond a beacon of hope and a target for those who feared change. The first clash had been won, but the war for balance was just beginning, its outcome resting on the fragile alliance they fought to protect.
Lumina's morning light filtered through the city's glass spires, casting a golden haze over the obsidian streets, where holographic billboards flickered with advertisements for enchanted tech, and transport pods hummed along crystalline tracks. The magical grid pulsed steadily through the ley lines, its rhythm a quiet reassurance after the chaos of Cowell's lunar storm at the northern outpost. Within the Magical Enforcement Agency's headquarters, a fortress of chrome and glass, Seraphina and Rhys trained in a vast training chamber, its reinforced crystal walls etched with runes that glowed in response to their magic. The air was crisp, scented with ozone and the faint metallic tang of enchanted technology, a stark contrast to the damp earth of the underbelly where their bond had first taken root. Seraphina's rune-embroidered vest shimmered faintly, her auburn braid neatly tied, her hazel eyes flecked with gold focused with determination. Rhys stood beside her, his scarred arms bared in a fitted tunic, his amber eyes glowing softly under the waning moon's pull, his lunar magic a steady pulse that synced with her sunlit energy. Agent Mara, her black uniform pristine, guided their training, her steel-gray eyes sharp with purpose. Her tablet projected a holographic diagram of the ley lines, their paths glowing with the echo of Seraphina and Rhys's combined magic, a golden-silver helix that had quelled the outpost storm. "Your bond is your strength," Mara said, her voice firm but encouraging. "Seraphina, your sun magic is raw, powerful, but untrained. Rhys, your lunar energy can temper it. Together, you're the balance Lumina needs." Seraphina nodded, her heart a mix of resolve and unease, her golden light flaring in her palms as she summoned a radiant shield. The effort was intense, her body trembling, the light flickering like a flame caught in a gust. She recalled the outpost's clash, her shield holding against Cowell's dark energy, but also the strain that had nearly overwhelmed her. Rhys's mend brushed hers, his silvery glow weaving into her shield, stabilizing it with a cool, lunar calm. Their magics danced, a shimmering helix that lit the chamber like a dawn breaking indoors, the runes on the walls pulsing in harmony.
Mara guided Seraphina to refine her sun magic, teaching her to channel it into precise beams of healing light. Seraphina focused, her breath steadying as she directed a golden ray toward a cracked crystal on a pedestal, its surface knitting together under her touch. The process was exhilarating, her soul singing with the power of her Solis Mage heritage. But a faint instability lingered, a tremor in her light that made her chest tighten. Rhys sensed it, his amber eyes narrowing with concern. He taught her werewolf instincts, guiding her to move with fluid precision, their training a physical and magical dance. In one exercise, he lunged, his claws extended, testing her reflexes. Seraphina dodged, her golden shield flaring to deflect him, their movements a seamless blend of sun and moon. Their laughter echoed, a rare moment of joy amidst the tension, their bond deepening with each shared effort. His scarred hand caught hers, their magics intertwining, the chamber glowing with their combined light, a testament to their growing synergy. Yet the weight of their purpose pressed heavily. Seraphina's mind flickered to the whispers of dissent, KL's rebellion in the underbelly, Counselor Vren's propaganda in Lumina streets. Her golden light, though stronger, felt like a beacon drawing danger, its instability a hidden flaw she feared could betray them. Rhys sensed it, his amber eyes narrowing with concern.
He taught her werewolf instincts, guiding her to move with fluid precision, their training a physical and magical dance. In one exercise, he lunged, his claws extended, testing her reflexes. Seraphina dodged, her golden shield flaring to deflect him, their movements a seamless blend of sun and moon. Their laughter echoed, a rare moment of joy amidst the tension, their bond deepening with each shared effort. His scarred hand caught hers, their magics intertwining, the chamber glowing with their combined light, a testament to their growing synergy. Yet the weight of their purpose pressed heavily. Seraphina's mind flickered to the whispers of dissent, Kael's rebellion in the underbelly, Council of Wren's propaganda in Lumina's streets. Her golden light, though stronger, felt like a beacon drawing danger, its instability a hidden flaw she feared could betray them. Rhys, sensing her doubt, shared stories of his father's resilience, his voice low and steady, his lunar magic a soothing presence. "We're stronger together," he said, his hand squeezing hers, their helix pulsing brighter. Mala watched, her tablet recording their progress, but her expression betrayed concern. "Your power is unprecedented," she warned, "but it's a target. The pack and the city's skeptics are watching." The chamber's runes flickered, the ley lines carrying the echo of their magic, but also the distant stir of Kael's dark artifact, its energy a growing threat below. Outside, Lumina's spires stood radiant, their light masking the city's unease. Holo flyers spread Wren's fear, depicting Seraphina as a destabilizing force, while in the underbelly Kael rallied his rebels, their lunar magic sharpening for a larger strike. Seraphina and Rhys stood in the chamber, their hands clasped, their gold and silver helix a fragile promise of balance. The training had forged them into a unit, their love and magic intertwined, but the instability in Seraphina's power and the looming dissent cast shadows over their purpose, a storm waiting to test the strength of their newfound harmony.
The underbelly of Lumina pulsed with a restless energy, its labyrinthine tunnels lit by the eerie green glow of bioluminescent fungi clinging to damp stone walls, their light mingling with the faint shimmer of lunar wards etched into the rock. The air was thick with the scent of earth and rust, a stark contrast to the radiant city above where glass spires caught the midday sun and holographic billboards cast neon hues across obsidian streets. In the pack's lair, a cavernous subway hub buried deep beneath the Lumina's glittering facade, the central fire pit crackled, its embers casting jagged shadows across crates and tarps scavenged from forgotten tunnels. The pack gathered in a tense circle, their faces, some human, some half-shifted with lupine eyes, etched with uncertainty. Rhys stood at the chamber's edge, his leather jacket discarded, his scarred arms bared in a fitted tunic, his dark hair streaked with silver, framing amber eyes that burned with resolve. The waning moon's pull still stirred his lunar magic, a silvery glow simmering beneath his skin, but it was his bond with Seraphina, a golden silver thread pulsing through the ley lines that anchored him, fueling his determination to mend the rift he had caused. Rhys faced the pack, his voice steady but heavy with the weight of his banishment. "I chose Seraphina not to betray you, but to save us," he said, his words echoing off the stone. "She's a Solis Mage, her sun magic the balance to our moon. Together, we can live in luminous light, not its shadows." The pack stirred, some murmuring in skepticism, others listening with guarded hope. Elder Torin, his scarred face a mask of distrust, growled from his stone bench, "You've brought humans to our door, Rhys. Kael speaks truth. Your alliance risks our blood." Kael, standing apart with his loyalists, his lean frame taut and green eyes blazing, clutched the obsidian shard, its dark lunar energy pulsing faintly, a reminder of his failed strike at the outpost. His fury was palpable, his betrayal a wound that fueled his rebellion, but Rhys's gaze softened, seeking those who might still believe in his vision.
Among the pack, Lyra, Rhys's younger sister, stepped forward, her presence a quiet force. Her auburn hair, a shade lighter than Seraphina's, was tied back, her hazel eyes, strikingly similar to Seraphina's but without the golden flecks, steady with conviction. Clad in a patched cloak, her frame was slight but strong, her lunar magic a soft silver glow that mirrored Rhys's. "He's right," she said, her voice clear, cutting through the murmurs. "I've seen the city's fear, but also its hope. Rhys and the Solis Mage stopped Kael's storm. They're stronger together, and we can be too." Her words stirred the younger werewolves, their eyes flickering with doubt and curiosity. Lyra had always bridged the pack's divides, her loyalty to Rhys tempered by her understanding of their fears. She approached him, her hand resting on his arm, her touch a reminder of their shared blood, their father's dream of a pack unbound by fear. Rhys seized the moment, sharing the prophecy Mara had revealed, sun and moon united, a balance to end centuries of conflict. He spoke of the outpost where Rhys and Seraphina's golden-silver helix had quelled Kael's chaos, a proof of their power. Some pack members nodded, swayed by Lyra's support and the memory of their survival, but Kael's voice cut through, sharp as a claw. "You'd sell us to humans," he spat, raising the shard, its dark light flaring. "They'll cage us, like they caged her." The accusation hung heavy, the fire pit's flames flaring as if echoing his rage. Rhys met Kael's gaze, his heart aching for the brother he'd lost to fear. "Join us, Kael," he urged, his silvery aura steady. "This is our future." A few rebels hesitated, their claws retracting, but Kael's resolve held, his shard a beacon of defiance. Above, luminous spires glittered, the city unaware of the underbelly's turmoil. Seraphina trained at the MEA headquarters, her golden light refining under Mara's guidance, but she felt Rhys's struggle through their bond, a tremor in the golden-silver thread. The lair's wards flickered, the ley lines carrying the echo of their conflict, while Kael's rebels slipped into the tunnels, their dark artifact pulsing with plans for a larger strike. Lyra's support gave Rhys hope, her hazel eyes a mirror to his resolve, but the pack remained divided, their loyalty torn between tradition and a new path. The fire pit's light cast long shadows, the underbelly's unrest a growing storm that threatened the fragile alliance Seraphina and Rhys fought to forge, their bond a beacon in a world poised on the edge of upheaval.
Lumina glowed under a late afternoon sun, its glass spires refracting light into a dazzling array of prisms that shimmered across the obsidian streets, casting fleeting rainbows on the faces of bustling citizens. Holographic billboards pulsed with vibrant advertisements for mana-charged gadgets, their colors blending with the hum of transport pods gliding along crystalline tracks and the watchful buzz of MEA drones patrolling the skies. The magical grid thrummed through the ley lines, its rhythm steady but tinged with the echo of Seraphina and Rhys' combined magic, a golden-silver helix that had quelled Kael's lunar storm at the northern outpost. Yet beneath the city's radiant surface, tension simmered, fueled by Councillor Vreen's anti-werewolf propaganda and the whispers of Seraphina's power as a Solis Mage. At the magical archive, her empty desk, still bearing the silver orb from the surge, was a focal point of gossip, her colleagues' murmurs a mix of fear and fascination. "She's a Solis Mage, but can we trust her?" Agent Mara, determined to shift public perception, orchestrated a series of public demonstrations to showcase Seraphina's Zen magic. The first took place in Lumina's central plaza, a vast expanse of polished obsidian ringed by chrome dinches and synthetic trees glowing with embedded enchantments. A crowd gathered, their faces a mix of curiosity and skepticism, their hollow tablets recording as Seraphina stepped forward, her rune-embroidered vest shimmering, her auburn braid catching the sunlight. Her hazel eyes, flecked with gold, flickered with nervous determination, her heart pounding as she felt the weight of their stares. Mara stood beside her, her black uniform pristine, her steel-gray eyes encouraging. "Show them your light," she said, her voice low but firm. Seraphina raised her hands, summoning a radiant shield of golden light that pulsed with warmth, its glow softening the plaza's stark edges.
The crowd gasped, their skepticism giving way to awe as the light rippled, healing a cracked bench, its surface knitting together like living stone. The demonstration shifted when a minor magical surge, triggered by a ley line fluctuation, swept through the plaza, sending a fountain's enchanted water spiraling chaotically. Seraphina acted instinctively, her golden light flaring into a beam that calmed the surge, restoring the fountain's gentle flow. The crowd cheered, some clapping, others whispering in wonder, their hollow tablets capturing the moment. A child, her arm grazed by a shard of crystal, approached timidly, and Seraphina knelt, her golden light enveloping the wound, healing it in seconds. The mother wept, her gratitude a spark that spread through the crowd, their fear softening into hope. Seraphina's heart swelled, her solitude as an outcast fading in the face of their trust. But a flicker of instability in her light, a tremor from her untrained power, made her chest tighten, a reminder of the risks she carried.
Rhys watched from the plaza's edge, his scarred arms hidden under a cloak, his amber eyes glowing softly with pride. Their bond pulsed, a golden-silver thread that steadied her, his lunar magic a silent support through the ley lines. But Councillor Vren's faction was unrelenting, their hollow flyers flooding the streets with images of snarling werewolves and warnings of Seraphina's unstable power. In the council chamber, a sleek room of chrome and glass, Vren stood before his allies, his silver hair slicked back, his cold blue eyes sharp with calculation. "Her displays are a ruse," he declared, his voice smooth but venomous, his iridescent robes glinting. "The Solis Mage and her werewolf will disrupt our grid. We must act." His faction nodded, their tablets glowing with manipulated data, spreading fear through Lumina's networks. The Archive's overseer, swayed by Vren, reported Seraphina's past anomalies, fueling the narrative of her as a threat. Mara countered in the council, her voice a steady beacon. "Seraphina's power is our salvation," she argued, projecting footage of the plaza's healing. "She and Rhys are the balance we've sought." Some counselors wavered, their trust in Mara growing, but Vren's influence held firm, his propaganda a shadow over the city's hope. The plaza's synthetic trees shimmered, the ley lines carrying the echo of Seraphina's golden light, but also the distant pulse of Kael's dark artifact in the underbelly, where his rebels planned a larger strike. Seraphina and Rhys stood together after the demonstration, their hands clasped, their magics intertwining in a soft helix that lit the plaza's dusk. She was transfixed by the snarling werewolf she was staring at. Her heart was a mix of triumph and fear, his amber eyes resolute. "We're changing them," he said, his voice firm. But the whispers of Vren skeptics and Kael's rebellion loomed, a storm threatening the fragile shift in Lumina's heart, their alliance poised on a knife's edge.
Lumina's night was ablaze with light, its glass fires casting a radiant glow across the obsidian streets, where holographic billboards flickered with vibrant colors and transport pods hummed along crystalline tracks. The magical grid pulsed through the ley lines, its rhythm a vital heartbeat sustaining the city's enchanted infrastructure. But at the heart of Lumina, the central power hub, a towering structure of chrome and crystal, its surface etched with glowing runes, stood under siege. Kael and the Pack Elders, driven by desperation to stop Seraphina and Rhys's alliance, had launched their attack, wielding the obsidian shard, its dark lunar energy now amplified into a ferocious tempest. The hub's wards flared red, straining against a swirling vortex of silvery black energy that tore through the surrounding plaza, shattering glass and sending drones crashing in sparks of twisted metal. The storm's howl echoed through the city, a primal roar of defiance that shook the ley lines, its dark light a direct challenge to the golden-silver helix of Seraphina and Rhys's bond. In the underbelly, Kael had rallied his rebels in the Pack's lair, the fire pit's embers casting their faces in stark relief as Elder Torin's scarred visage loomed, his silver aura flaring with resolve. "This ends tonight," Torin had growled, his voice a rumble that stirred the bioluminescent fungi lining the cavern's walls. Kael, his lean frame taut, his green eyes burning with fury, clutched the shard, its dark energy pulsing in sync with his lunar magic.
The Solis Mage and her traitor will fall, he vowed, his voice sharp with betrayal. The memory of Rhys's choice, Seraphina over the pack, a wound that fueled his rebellion. The rebels, a dozen werewolves with claws glinting and eyes glowing lupine, followed him through the tunnels, their path lit by the shard's ominous glow, emerging into the city through a hidden grate to strike the hub, aiming to cripple Lumina's grid and pin the blame on Seraphina. Seraphina and Rhys, alerted by Agent Mars' urgent summons, raced to the hub, their bond a gold-and-silver thread pulsing with determination. Seraphina's rune-embroidered vest shimmered, her auburn braids swinging as she ran, her hazel eyes flecked with gold wide with a mix of fear and resolve. Rhys moved beside her, his scarred arms bared in a fitted tunic, his amber eyes glowing under the waning moon's pull, his lunar magic a steady counterpoint to her sunlit energy. The plaza around the hub was chaos, civilians fleeing, their screams drowned by the storm's roar, the air thick with the scent of ozone and scorched crystal. The hub's wards flickered, its runes struggling as the tempest's arcs lashed out, cracking the structure's surface. Seraphina's heart pounded, her golden light flaring unbidden, its warmth clashing with the storm's cold fury. Rhys's hand found hers, his silvery glow weaving with her light, their bond a beacon amidst the darkness.
Kale stood at the storm's epicenter, the obsidian shard raised high, its dark energy fueling the tempest's rage. His rebels flanked him, their half-shifted forms snarling, claws slashing at the hub's defenses. "You've brought this, Rhys!" shouted Kale, his voice cutting through the storm's howl, his eyes locking onto the couple as they entered the plaza. "Your human will destroy us all!" Rhys stepped forward, his silvery aura flaring, his voice steady despite the ache of Kale's betrayal. "This is our future, Kale. Stand down." Seraphina summoned a radiant shield, her golden light pulsing with warmth, deflecting a wave of dark lightning from the shard. The effort strained her, the instability in her untrained power sending tremors through her light, but Rhys's lunar magic wove around her, strengthening her shield with silvery threads. Their gold and silver helix spiraled forward, cutting through the storm's edges, its light a dawn breaking against the darkness. The clash was fierce, the plaza a battleground of light and shadow. Kale's rebels lunged, their claws meeting Seraphina's radiant beams, which pushed them back with bursts of golden fire. Rhys countered with lunar shields, his movements fluid, his scars glinting as he deflected blows. The hub's ward stabilized, their runes glowing brighter as the ley lines responded to the couple's balance. Seraphina's heart ached for Kale's pain, his fear echoing her own past isolation, but her resolve held, her light a testament to her purpose. Rhys's voice rang out, pleading one last time, "Join us, Kale!" But the shard's dark energy surged, Kale's fury unyielding, the storm intensifying. Above, luminous spires stood sentinel, their light masking the chaos, while Counselor Vren's faction watched, ready to exploit the attack. Below, the underbelly's wards flickered, the ley lines carrying the echo of the battle, a prelude to the greater storm looming over Seraphina and Rhys's fragile alliance.
Lumina's central plaza was a maelstrom of chaos, the night sky fractured by the silvery black tempest unleashed by Kale and the Pack Elders at the city's central power hub. The hub, a towering structure of chrome and crystal, stood battered, its glowing runes flickering as the lunar storm's dark energy tore through its wards, sending arcs of lightning crackling across the obsidian pavement. The air was thick with the scent of scorched metal and ozone, the screams of fleeing civilians drowned by the storm's primal howl. Seraphina and Rhys stood at the plaza's heart, their golden silver helix a radiant beacon against the darkness, their bond a lifeline amidst the chaos. Seraphina's rune-embroidered vest shimmered, her auburn braid swinging, her hazel eyes flecked with gold wide with strain, as her radiant shield trembled under the storm's assault. Rhys, his scarred arms bared in a fitted tunic, wove silvery lunar shields, his amber eyes glowing with resolve, his lunar magic steadying her faltering light. Unseen, Counselor Vren seized the chaos to enact his betrayal. From a concealed control room within the hub, a sleek chamber lined with holographic consoles and glowing data streams,
he sabotaged the hub's defenses, his fingers dancing across a tablet to override the ward's protocols. His silver hair gleamed under the cold light, his cold blue eyes glinting with calculated malice, his iridescent robe a stark contrast to the room's sterile chrome. Wren had long feared Seraphina's sun magic and Rhys's moon-touched alliance, seeing their power as a threat to Lumina's technological order. His propaganda had stoked fear, but now he acted directly, weakening the hub's runes to amplify the storm's destruction, hoping to discredit the couple and solidify his control. The Solis Mage will be their downfall, he muttered, his voice smooth but venomous, as he sent false signals to the grid, blaming Seraphina for the chaos. The hub's wards dimmed, the storm surging stronger, its dark lightning shattering a crystalline pillar, sending shards raining across the plaza.
Seraphina staggered, her golden shield flickering under the intensified assault, the instability in her untrained power threatening to overwhelm her. Her breath came in gasps, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. The memory of their training in the MEA's chamber a fragile anchor. Rhys sensed her struggle, his silvery glow weaving tighter around her light, his scarred hand grasping hers. "Hold on," he urged, his voice a low growl of encouragement, his lunar magic a cool counterpoint to her radiant heat. Their helix pulsed, pushing back the storm's edges, but the hub's failing wards left them exposed, Kale's obsidian shard glowing brighter as he stood at the storm's core, his green eyes burning with defiance. The rebels' claws slashed, their half-shifted forms a blur in the tempest, testing the couple's resolve. Hope arrived with Lyra, Rhys's sister, leading a small group of loyal werewolves who had rallied to his vision. Her auburn hair flew wild, her hazel eyes fierce, her silver aura flaring as she charged into the plaza, her claws deflecting a rebel strike. "We're with you, Rhys," she shouted, her voice cutting through the storm's roar. Her pack mates, their lunar magic shimmering, formed a protective ring around Seraphina and Rhys, their presence bolstering the couple's defense. Agent Mara, alerted by the hub's distress signals, arrived with a squad of MEA agents, their black uniforms glowing with containment runes. Mara's steel-gray eyes scanned the chaos, her tablet revealing Wren's sabotage. "He's betrayed us," she hissed, broadcasting the truth to the council via a secure holofeed, her voice a clarion call. "Wren's weakening the hub to frame the Solis Mage." The counselors, watching from their chrome chamber, wavered, some shocked by Wren's treachery, their trust in his propaganda shaken. The tide turned, as Seraphina and Rhys redoubled their efforts, their gold-and-silver helix flaring brighter, cutting through the storm's heart. Lyra's werewolves countered Kale's rebels, their claws clashing in a dance of light and shadow, while Mara's agents reinforced the hub's wards, their runes stabilizing the grid. Seraphina's light strained, her body trembling, but Rhys's steady presence, his hand on her shoulder, his lunar magic a grounding force, kept her from breaking. The plaza's chaos began to subside, the storm's vortex shrinking, but Wren's betrayal and Kale's fury remained, twin threats converging on the couple's alliance. Above, luminous spires stood sentinel, their light reflecting the battle's glow, while below, the underbelly's wards pulsed, the lee lines carrying the echo of a fight far from over, the couple's bond a beacon in a city teetering on the edge of transformation.
Lumina's central plaza was a battlefield of light and shadow, the night sky fractured by the silvery black tempest unleashed by Kyle and the Pack Elders, amplified by Counselor Wren's sabotage of the central power hub. The hub, a towering structure of chrome and crystal, stood on the brink of ruin, its runes flickering erratically as the magical grid's ley lines spasmed, their once steady pulse now a chaotic thrum that shook the city. Glass spires trembled, their reflections distorted across the obsidian pavement where shards of crystal and twisted drone wreckage littered the ground. The air was thick with the acrid scent of scorched metal and ozone, the storm's primal howl drowning out the screams of fleeing civilians and the fading hum of transport pods spiraling out of control. Seraphina and Rhys stood at the heart of the chaos,
their golden-silver helix a radiant beacon against the darkness, their bond a lifeline strained to its breaking point. Seraphina's rune-embroidered vest glowed faintly, her auburn braid frayed, her hazel eyes flecked with gold, wide with desperation, as her radiant shield wavered under the storm's relentless assault. Her golden light, still unstable from her untrained Solis Mage power, flickered like a candle in a gale, her body trembling with the effort to hold it steady. Rhys, his scarred arms bared in a fitted tunic, stood beside her, his amber eyes blazing with resolve under the waning moon's pull, his lunar magic weaving silvery threads to bolster her shield. Their hands clasped tightly, their bond pulsing through the ley lines, but Vren's sabotage had crippled the hub's wards, allowing Kyle's obsidian shard to unleash a surge of dark lunar energy that tore through the grid. The hub's core, a crystalline orb pulsing with the city's magical heart, cracked, its light dimming, and the ley lines convulsed, sending tremors through luminous streets, plunging lights into darkness, and silencing the city's pulse. Kyle stood at the storm's epicenter, the obsidian shard raised in his trembling hand, its dark energy fueling a vortex that spiraled upward, threatening to engulf the hub. His lean frame was taut, his green eyes burning with a mix of fury and despair, his voice a snarl over the tempest roar. "This is your doing, Rhys! Your human will destroy us all!" Behind him, the rebel werewolves fought with primal ferocity, their claws slashing through the air, their half-shifted forms a blur in the storm's light. Lyra, Rhys's sister, led her loyalists in defense, her auburn-haired wild, her hazel eyes fierce, her silver aura flaring as she countered the rebels' attacks. Agent Mara and her MEA squad, their black uniforms glowing with containment runes, struggled to reinforce the hub's failing wards, their tablets flickering as Vren's sabotage scrambled their systems. Mara's steel gray eyes were grim, her voice sharp as she shouted orders, her holo feed exposing Vren's treachery to the council, but the grid's collapse outpaced the efforts.
Seraphina's heart pounded, her golden light faltering as the storm's dark lightning struck her shield, each blow a jolt that threatened to shatter her. The instability in her power, a lingering flaw from her untrained magic, surged, a tremor that made her knees buckle. Rhys sensed her struggle, his silvery blow enveloping her, his scarred hand squeezing hers with fierce determination. "We're the balance," he said, his voice a low growl cutting through the chaos, his lunar magic a cool anchor to her radiant heat. Their helix flared brighter, a golden-silver spiral that pushed back the storm's edges, but the hub's core cracked further, the ley line screaming with discord. Seraphina's breath came in gasps, her mind flashing to their training, their moments in the grove, the prophecy of sun and moon. She focused, channeling every ounce of her Solis Mage heritage, her golden light surging into a radiant beam that struck the storm's core, intertwining with Rhys's silvery threads in a desperate bid to stabilize the grid. The plaza shook as their combined magic clashed with the shard's dark energy, a blinding collision of light and shadow. Lyra's werewolves and Mara's agents rallied, their efforts buying the couple precious moments. The hub's core pulsed faintly, responding to their helix, its cracks slowing as the ley lines began to calm. Kale staggered, the shard's light dimming, his green eyes wide with shock as the storm weakened. But Vren's sabotage lingered, a hidden virus in the grid's systems, threatening a final collapse. Seraphina and Rhys stood united, their bodies trembling, their magics fused in a radiant helix that lit the plaza like a new dawn. Above, luminous spires flickered, the city teetering on the edge of darkness, while below, the underbelly's wards pulsed, the ley lines carrying the echo of a battle that would decide the fate of their alliance. The grid's collapse was a crucible, forging their bond into a force that could either save Lumina or doom it, the outcome hanging on the strength of their unity.
Lumina teetered on the edge of darkness, its glass spires flickering as the magical grid faltered, their radiant glow dimming against a starless sky. The central plaza, once a beacon of the city's vibrancy, was a scarred battleground, littered with shattered crystal and twisted drone wreckage, the air thick with the acrid scent of scorched metal and ozone. The central power hub, a towering structure of chrome and crystal, stood at the heart of the chaos, its runes barely glowing, its core, a massive crystalline orb pulsing with the city's magical heart, cracked and fading, a victim of Kale's lunar storm and Counselor Wren's sabotage. The ley line spasmed, sending tremors through the obsidian streets, silencing the hum of transport pods and plunging holographic billboards into static. Seraphina and Rhys stood at the hub's base, their golden-silver helix a radiant lifeline against the encroaching darkness, their bond the only force holding the grid together. Seraphina's rune-embroidered vest shimmered faintly, her auburn braid frayed, her hazel eyes flecked with gold burning with a mix of exhaustion and resolve. Her golden light, still unstable from her untrained Solis Mage power, pulsed erratically, her body trembling as she channeled it into a radiant shield to protect the hub. Rhys stood beside her, his scarred arms bared in a fitted tunic, his amber eyes glowing with fierce determination under the waning moon's pull, his lunar magic weaving silvery threads to bolster her shield. Their hands clasped tightly, their bond a golden silver thread pulsing through the ley lines, a beacon of balance amidst the chaos. The storm's remnants lingered, Kale's obsidian shard still glowing faintly in his hands as he and his rebels regrouped at the plaza's edge, their half-shifted forms snarling, their green eyes fixed on the couple with unyielding fury.
Agent Mara, her black uniform scuffed but her steel-gray eyes unyielding, led her MEA squad in a desperate bid to restore the hub's wards, their containment runes glowing as they patched the failing systems. Lyra, Rhys' sister, fought alongside her loyal werewolves, her auburn hair wild, her hazel eyes fierce, her silver aura flaring as she deflected a rebel's claw with a swift strike. "We're with you," she shouted, her voice cutting through the storm's fading howl, her packmates forming a protective ring around the hub. Mara's tablet flickered, exposing Wren's sabotage to the Council, but his virus still lingered in the grid, a hidden pulse that threatened total collapse. The hub's core dimmed further, its cracks widening, the ley line screaming with discord as Lumina's lights flickered back to life, plunging entire districts into darkness. Seraphina and Rhys pushed toward the hub's core, their helix flaring brighter as they entered the structure, its interior a cavern of crystal and chrome lit by faltering runes. The air was heavy, the core's pulse a weak heartbeat that resonated with Seraphina's golden light. She knelt before it, her hands trembling as she channeled her sun magic, a radiant beam pouring into the orb, its cracks glowing but refusing to heal. The instability in her power surged, a tremor that made her gasp, her vision blurring with the strain. Rhys knelt beside her, his silvery glow enveloping her light, his scarred hand steadying hers. "Together," he whispered, his voice a grounding force, his lunar magic weaving with hers in a radiant helix that pulsed like a new dawn. Their combined power surged into the core, its cracks slowing, the ley lines calming as the grid's pulse steadied. Kale's rebels struck again, their claws breaching the hub's entrance, but Lyra and Mara's forces held them back, their combined efforts a fragile shield. Seraphina's heart ached, her bond with Rhys the only anchor against the fear of failure, the memory of their training and their love, fueling her resolve. The core's light brightened, the hub's runes stabilizing, but Wren's virus triggered a final surge, a dark pulse that shook the structure. Rhys's amber eyes met hers, their helix flaring to its brightest, a golden silver beacon that pushed back the darkness. The plaza's chaos subsided, the ley lines humming with renewed harmony. But Kale's fury and Wren's treachery lingered, twin threats poised to strike again. Above, luminous spires flickered back to life, their light a testament to the couple's triumph.
But below, the underbelly's wards pulsed, the city's heart still fragile, its fate resting on the strength of Seraphina and Rhys's unbreakable bond.
Lumina's central plaza glowed faintly as the city's spires flickered back to life, their glass surfaces catching the first hints of dawn and casting soft prisms across the obsidian pavement. The central power hub, a towering structure of chrome and crystal, stood scarred but intact, its runes pulsing steadily after Seraphina and Rhys's desperate efforts to stabilize its core. The air was heavy with the lingering scent of scorched metal and ozone, the wreckage of drones and shattered crystal scattered across the plaza, a testament to the chaos of Kyle's lunar storm and Counselor Vryn's sabotage. The magical grid hummed through the ley lines, its rhythm fragile but restored, a quiet victory for Seraphina and Rhys's golden-silver helix. Seraphina stood at the hub's entrance, her rune-embroidered vest glowing faintly, her auburn braid frayed, and her hazel eyes flecked with gold, reflecting both exhaustion and resolve. Rhys stood beside her, his scarred arms bared in a fitted tunic, his amber eyes glowing softly under the waning moon's pull, his lunar magic a steady counterpoint to her radiant light. Their hands remained clasped, their bond a golden-silver thread pulsing with unbreakable unity. Kyle lingered at the plaza's edge, the obsidian shard in his hand now dim, its dark lunar energy spent after the storm's defeat. His lean frame was slumped, his dark hair matted with sweat, his green eyes dimmed with a mix of fury and despair. The rebels around him, half-shifted werewolves loyal to the pack's ancient code, hesitated, their claws retracting, their lupine eyes flickering with doubt as the hub's core glowed brighter. Kyle's heart churned with conflict, the memory of Rhys's betrayal, choosing Seraphina, a human, over the pack, clashing with the undeniable power of their combined magic. He had seen their helix quell his storm, a radiant balance that saved the city, yet his loyalty to Elder Torin and the pack's secrecy held him fast. Lyra, Rhys's sister, approached him, her auburn hair wild, her hazel eyes fierce but pleading, her silver aura a soft glow. "Kyle, you saw their power," she said, her voice steady but urgent, cutting through the plaza's tense silence. "They're not our ruin, they're our future."
Seraphina and Rhys stepped forward, their golden-silver helix flaring softly, a beacon of hope in the dawn's light. Seraphina's voice was gentle but firm, her golden light pulsing with warmth. "We don't want to fight you, Cowell," she said, her eyes meeting his. "We want to unite our worlds." Rhys nodded, his amber eyes heavy with the pain of their fractured bond. "You're my brother, Cowell," he said, his voice low but resonant. "Join us. The pack can live in the light." The words struck Cowell like a blade, his green eyes wavering, his memories flooded back. Rhys's leadership, their shared hunts under the moon, the pack's unity before the Solis Mage entered their lives. The obsidian shard trembled in his hand, its dark energy a fading echo of his rebellion, its weight a reminder of the destruction he'd nearly wrought. Agent Mara, her black uniform scuffed, stood with her MEA squad, their containment runes glowing as they monitored the plaza. Her steel-gray eyes softened, her hollow feed still broadcasting Vryn's treachery to the Council, swaying some to support the Alliance. Lyra stepped closer to Cowell, her hand resting on his arm, her silver aura mingling with his. "You know the underbelly's shadows," she said, her voice a whisper. "They're not safety, they're fear. Rhys and Seraphina are our way out." Cowell's breath hitched, his claws retracting, the shard slipping from his grasp to clatter on the pavement. The rebels behind him faltered, some lowering their heads, their loyalty to Cowell shaken by the couple's radiant power and Lyra's words. The plaza's synthetic trees shimmered, their enchanted leaves reflecting the golden silver light, the ley lines humming with restored harmony. Cowell fell to his knees, his green eyes glistening with unshed tears, his voice breaking. "I wanted to protect us," he murmured, his gaze shifting from Rhys to Seraphina. "But you've protected Lumina." He rose slowly, his frame unsteady but resolute, his lunar magic a faint silver glow that no longer clashed with their helix. "I'm with you," he said, the words a surrender and a vow. The rebels murmured, some joining him, others retreating into the shadows, their allegiance uncertain. Above, Lumina's spires glowed brighter, the city awakening to a new dawn, but Counselor Vren's action lingered, their propaganda a persistent shadow. Below, the underbelly's wards pulsed, the ley lines carrying the echo of Cowell's redemption, a fragile victory for Seraphina and Rhys's alliance, their bond now a beacon drawing allies, but still facing the final test of Lumina's divided heart.
Lumina's dawn broke with a radiant glow, its glass spires catching the first light and scattering it into a kaleidoscope of gold and violet across the obsidian streets. The central plaza, scarred from Kael's lunar storm and Vren's sabotage, hummed with renewed energy. The central power hub's crystalline core pulsing steadily, its runes glowing with restored vitality. The magical grid thrummed through the ley lines, its rhythm a testament to Seraphina and Rhys's victory in stabilizing the hub, their gold-and-silver helix a beacon that had quelled the chaos. The air was crisp, scented with the faint tang of ozone and the sweet bloom of synthetic trees lining the plaza, their enchanted leaves shimmering in the morning light. Seraphina stood at the hub's entrance, her rune-embroidered vest glowing softly, her auburn braid neat despite the night's battles, her hazel eyes flecked with gold, shining with resolve. Rhys stood beside her, his scarred arms bared in a fitted tunic, his amber eyes warm with pride, his lunar magic a steady pulse, weaving with her sunlit energy. Their hands clasped, their bond a golden silver thread that resonated through the city, a symbol of the balance they fought to achieve. Kael, his redemption sealed in the plaza's fading shadows, stood nearby, his lean frame no longer taut with fury, his green eyes softened with newfound purpose. The obsidian shard lay discarded, its dark energy spent, a relic of his past rebellion. Lyra, Rhys's sister, stood at his side, her auburn hair catching the dawn, her hazel eyes fierce but hopeful, her silver aura a quiet support. Agent Mara, her black uniform scuffed but her steel-gray eyes unwavering, coordinated her MEA squad, their containment runes stabilizing the plaza's lingering tremors. The crowd gathered, citizens drawn by the hub's restored light, their hollow tablets recording, their faces a mix of awe and uncertainty. Seraphina's public displays had swayed many, but Counselor Vren's propagandas still lingered, his faction poised for a final stand to thwart the alliance. Vren emerged from the council chamber, his silver hair slicked back, his iridescent robe gleaming, his cold blue eyes sharp with desperation. Flanked by his loyal technocrats, he addressed the crowd from a levitating platform, his voice amplified by hollow projectors. "This Solis Mage and her werewolf are a danger," he declared, his smooth tone laced with venom, projecting falsified data of grid instability. "They'll destroy our city." The crowd murmured, some swayed by fear, but Seraphina stepped forward, her golden light flaring, a radiant beacon that silenced the whispers. "We're not your enemy," she said, her voice clear and steady, echoing across the plaza. "We're your balance." Rhys joined her, his silvery glow weaving with her light, their helix spiraling upward, illuminating the hub's crystal surface like a second sun. Kael stepped forward, his voice raw but resolute. "I was wrong," he admitted, his green eyes meeting the crowd's. "They saved us. They're our future."
The crowd's uncertainty wavered, their cheers growing as Seraphina raised her hands, her golden light weaving with Rhys's silvery threads to form a radiant dome over the plaza, its warmth healing cracked pavement and calming the ley lines. Mara's hollow feed, still broadcasting Vren's sabotage, swayed the council, and several technocrats abandoned him, their tablets dimming as they joined the crowd's support. Ren's platform faltered, his face twisting with rage as he activated a hidden device, a final sabotage, a pulse of disruptive energy aimed at the hub's core. The ley lines spasmed, the hub's runes flickering, but Seraphina and Rhys's helix surged, their combined magic enveloping the device, neutralizing its pulse in a burst of golden-silver light. The crowd gasped, their cheers erupting, Ren's influence crumbling as Mara's agents apprehended him, his cold eyes defeated. The plaza glowed with the dawn's light, the hub's core pulsing strong, the ley lines singing with harmony. Seraphina and Rhys stood together, their hands clasped, their helix a testament to their unbreakable bond. Call and Lyra joined them, their silver auras mingling with the crowd's hope. The moon touched no longer shadows, but partners in Lumina's future. Above, the spires shone, their light reflecting a city transformed, its people united by the balance of sun and moon. Below, the underbelly's wards pulsed, the pack's rebellion quelled, a new alliance forged. Seraphina's heart swelled, her golden light steady at last, Rhys's amber eyes warm with love. Their bond, once a forbidden spark, was now Lumina's heart, a final harmony that promised a new dawn for all.